All right, guys, what's going on? Hope you guys are having a great evening. Make sure. Oh, our guest is here early. I didn't realize it. Okay, let me go over some stream intro stuff real quick first, and I'll check back with our guest. Let me say hi to everybody in the chat real quick. Let's see. All right, what's going on, guys? Appreciate everybody that's tuning in. Ramiro, what's up? Alpha Fang. JMO, I haven't yet. I'll definitely check it out later, though. It's Fiji Unlimited. What's up, JP? Yeah. He. I was about to say he's not going to be here for another 5 minutes, but he definitely showed up, which was really cool. It's always cool when guests show up early and stuff like that too. So let me. Yeah, I was making sure I was on time too, especially because of just getting back from the gym and stuff. So, guys, give me a quick second. Let me check for the guests real quick. 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. All right, guys, he is here, but as always, let me do my best intro with these guests as I always do. So, you guys know him as Young Miyagi in Cobra Kai. He was also Mr. Suzuki in Outer Range. He was also the director, the writer, starred in, and edited the short film called Praey. It is my pleasure to introduce you guys, director, actor, stuntman, writer, and producer, Brian Takahashi. Brian, did I pronounce your last name right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. So,
Awesome.
I might sound a little weird. I've been sick this week, so if I start coughing, I got my water here, but just that might happen.
Yeah. If by any chance you need a water break, man, how are you feeling? Are you feeling better?
I'm better now. Yeah, but it's just the cough is starting, and
Right.
the voice is not completely there, but it's actually more closer to like Miyagi, so I guess it would work for this interview. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. Like a release day, actually, I came down with like this nasty 24-hour bug when I was really trying to like catch up on Easter egg videos and stuff like that. And so, but speaking of Miyagi, I put on my Miyagi cosplay shirt for you as well,
nice.
man. And then I also I don't know if you've seen this before, but this was a bonsai tree I usually carry with my Miyagi cosplay, and Ralph actually signed it too. And I want to tell you something, because like this, and this is not me like putting you on the spot or anything like that, but it was something I thought of before the interview. If we ever meet, I would like you to sign that bonsai tree as well.
Of course, yeah. Yes, I'm wearing the Miyagi hat too, so
yeah,
we're going from there. So
yeah, man, it's really cool. But no, thank you for taking your time. Chat's excited to see you. So for sure. Man, I have some questions here on the side. I'm also looking at the chat, so if you see me looking this way, that's kind of where I'm doing. But you know what? Let's do something fun first. So, Brian, Mr. Miyagi, I need some advice from you.
Sure.
Me and my girlfriend just got engaged in December.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so, congratulations!
Thank you. I know you're married. I'd like to just any kind of marriage advice you could offer me.
Yeah, I think, for me anyway, it's all about communication, right? I think in any relationship, either it's romantic, platonic, business, whatever, communication is the key. And it's not like talking. It's really just to understand the other person, right? Because they're choosing to spend their time with you, and vice versa. So, and again, a lot of communication is done non-verbally. And I think once you get that down, you're much more ahead of the game. You're going to know when things are off, right? And I think for the most part, people don't lean into that. They'll be like, something's not up, but they're just like, it's probably just my imagination, right?
Right.
But that first instinct, it's like, something feels off, then just bring it up. And I think the communication leads to talking, and I think just going through the whole Miyagi thing, it's Mr. Miyagi didn't speak English that well, yet he was able to communicate clearly to Daniel what it means to learn martial arts, right?
Right.
What it means to, be somebody who has responsibilities. So, yeah, I think for marriage, definitely, it all boils down to that. So hopefully that works out for you guys. So, but
Thank you.
I know you guys, are fine with that. So, yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's all really good advice. I've been asking like every guest I've had on that's been married, like, hey, what can we expect? So me and my fiance, we've been together for 4 years. I
Nice.
posted a picture recently. I don't know if you saw, but we actually cosplayed Kumiko and Chozen from Karate Kid Part Two.
Oh yes, yeah, I
Yeah,
did see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool.
Props to her because she made the kimono from scratch. Because nobody's ever to my knowledge, nobody's ever cosplayed Kumiko
I
before.
don't
So
think
she,
anyone's done Kumiko. Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's great, man.
yeah,
That's
she,
hard to do. So yeah.
yeah, she calls it the kimono of pain because she's like, you made me do that. Because like, so the funny story was, so Martin Cole was the first ever, well, first Karate Kid cast member I had a photo op with. I actually guested with
Nice.
Billy Zabka at a con because I used to be in the cosplay community pretty prevalently
Awesome.
before Cobra
Awesome.
Kai. So he was a guest for Houston Comic Palooza, and a couple months in advance, I said, "Hey, it would be cool if we could do," because season 3 had just come out. I said, "Let's do
Mhm.
Kumiko and Chosen," but she was like, "I was like, but if it's too short a time, it's fine." But she wanted to do it and whatnot, and she was just like, there was one of those things where she's like, "I hate you." I was like, but we got through it, and she's a trooper.
Nice.
I would love to meet Tamlyn someday and let her know because I know Yuji has seen the photo before, but I don't know if Tamlyn ever has. So I would love
Well,
to.
I mean, I'll send it to her. So,
Oh yeah, I mean not
yeah.
to put you on the spot, but hey, if
Oh
you
yeah.
happen to do so, man, that'd be really
I'll
cool.
send it
So
to her. Be like, hey, check this out. Yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, I appreciate it. So yeah, so speaking of cosplay, I saw you've cosplayed at a Renaissance festival from Destiny, right?
Yeah, it was. It's at a Ren Fair, and I think that's pretty much. It's really a Halloween costume, but it just took way too long. So I was like, I got to use it for something.
Right,
So
right.
we just kind of went. Yeah, the wife and I, we go to the Ren Fair every time. I think we've been going for I think the past 5 years now, maybe 4 years now.
Hmm.
Sorry, Sylvia, if I'm not getting that right. I'm bad with dates, but yeah, they used to have like in LA, they used to have a time traveler day for the run. I know people are like, wait, what? Yeah, so
Hmm.
it was the costume that you're referring to. It's kind of a mix between like a Destiny and like a Star Wars
Okay.
thing. It's very just like a kind of a generic, like when people ask me, I'm just a generic like background body, bounty hunter from Star Wars. Like there's no like, you know, uniqueness to it except for just being part of that world. Um, but that's what it was, and they sort of turned it into more of a, they call it RenCon now. So like it can be anything.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with Renaissance and like that. But like people just dress up as, like I've seen people dress up as like, Power Rangers, and they go
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
that. But that's kind of what it was. But it was literally supposed to be a Halloween costume that just took way too long. I was like, isn't gonna be ready for Halloween.
yeah.
So
I have it right here actually too. Yeah. It's funny
yeah,
you
yeah, there
mentioned
it
that.
is.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually, I think my first ever Renaissance festival. I don't have the picture up with me right now. I'll send it to you later. But I actually used to have a screen accurate Green Ranger cosplay, and I went to the
Nice.
Renaissance festival in that. So I'm really trying to slim back down. I've gotten to martial arts recently myself, and just
Awesome. Awesome.
trying to get back in the suit ready and stuff like that. But so I gotta ask, did you make it all yourself?
No, I mean what I did was I pre-bought like the arm because I just didn't have the time, the armor,
Right.
and I would just basically I don't have the skill to make this from scratch. I've just made it, but and the helmet is like pre-bought. Like I painted everything, so I'm more of like for because I used to do props myself.
Hmm.
So the gun I made, it's an old like I forgot. It's an old paintball, like I think it's called a Sheridan gun that I
Okay.
put together and made that. The cloak is from, oh god, I'm totally blanking on the guy's name, but he makes like these awesome Star Wars inspired asymmetrical cloaks. And it's one of those things where he'll put it out like on his website or like on the Instagram, and then within minutes it's gone. Like you have to go into the website and like, yeah, I think the quickest I've seen it was like 2 minutes. Like literally, post it on Instagram, you go there, it's gone, and like people just had to wait and camp out to get it. So, um, the helmet was from an Etsy creator called 3D Props or something like that. But it comes completely just gray, and you have to put everything together. Um, but you can pick the colors. But I spent a lot of time to like customize the paint. I actually modified with all the nicks and dings and things like that. So when I was doing props, I would be the person that would weather stuff and like paint things. That's like kind of like my forte. The body armor I modified, but the it's basically just foam body armor that I painted. So again, it was like all these pieces that I kind of had that just sort of just like, well, I can kind of stick this all together and make this into something. But yeah, because like I didn't like, again, if you have money to spend, like that means that you might not have much time. That's kind of like, what if I had a lot of time, I would probably do all this from scratch or just try to learn. But because I think I started like maybe like 2 months before October, and I was like, oh, I could get this done, and I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
So I was just like, and you're like looking at things, you're like, man, I'm not even halfway done yet, and it's like almost October. So I'm just gonna wait till next year, and I just kind of waited and waited. But yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's the belt is just another piece that I got from it. It's like a sci-fi western thing. The other belt is also from the same guy who made the asymmetrical cloak. Man, you know what? I'm just gonna look him up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's give him a shout out. I mean, the people who know, they know. I mean, I'm pretty sure like the description already, or people are like, oh, I know who he's talking about. So. But I think it's called Rebel Creations.
Okay.
Or Rebel Works or something like
Yeah.
that. But he got some awesome stuff there. They are on the pricier tip, so like if you need to like save up,
Right.
and that was just like a gift to myself for like I think my birthday at one point. It's something I had for a long time, and I was like, yeah, I better actually wear this thing. So, but doing all the Greebly stuff, like that's all the fun things. I would do that for this one. But again, for this kind of stuff, nobody really kind of like digs into that kind of stuff. They're just like, oh, you're Mandalorian. I'm like, sure.
Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah. But it's mostly just for fun. I just like dressing up. Halloween was a big thing for me, so never really got into a lot of cosplay. I wish I did. It seems really, really fun. The wife and I, we've done it a couple times at like Kamikaze out in LA. It's kind of like the LA Comic Con kind of thing. But nothing too crazy. I envy the folks who could do all that kind of stuff, because I'm like, man, that looks so fun. But yeah, I'm more about like I can just kind of take things and like paint them really nice and weather them to make them look good. But to actually create something from scratch, man, that's pretty dope. So yeah.
Yeah, I got a few comments too. And so speaking of people like, oh, you Mandalorian. So the first I think when my fiance, we revised Chosen's gi for Dallas Fan Expo 2022.
Nice.
Somebody called me Scorpion. Another person called me, which I mean I can see, right? Because like you think of MK1, the quilted pattern, but then somebody else called me Charlie Brown. I'm like, how? What, blood on my face? Like I'm Charlie Brown. So
it's literally just a yellow and black. That's what you got. Yeah,
yeah.
That's funny.
So,
but like, isn't it feel good when someone actually gets you right, and you're like, yes, awesome, So no, that's dope. So.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I can totally relate with like kind of the finishing props and stuff like that, because that's kind of where my forte is too. I can sew very minimal, very basic things. Like I could kind of get away with maybe doing a cape or like a scarf or something like that. But
nice.
Yeah, I as of late I've been messing around with these past few years, like getting props that are 3D printed from like a friend, and then I can finish them myself. Like, are you familiar with Kingdom Hearts at all or no?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we so for my friend Charles, he's probably listening right now too. He's done Daniel-san with me when I've done Miyagi.
Nice.
As a gift, because I was working on a prop from scratch, because we were kind of doing like a casual Goofy and Donald like human Kingdom Hearts.
Nice.
My friend printed the Dream Staff, and at the same con, I actually finished it just in time. I'll have to send you a picture of that too, and it looked really good and stuff
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
Speaking of props too, if I ever meet you, I'm definitely giving you one of these too, because I've hand painted these myself.
Awesome.
So,
That looks dope, man.
thank you.
Yeah. If we do, I'll get you one of these Miyagi soaps I made for Christmas.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, it's like a little, like the wife and I, it's also kind of cost saving too. But we give like handmade stuff. So this year or last year, I made these soaps and basically called them in Japanese like Miyagi's little soaps to kind of throw back to Miyagi's little trees and things like that. So I have a couple. So if you ever do meet, you're definitely gonna get one. So
okay.
Hopefully they're still good by that time. But
yeah. That's cool. So speaking of video games, so I know before we jump into Destiny talk, because I've got a lot of questions for you about Destiny.
Nice.
First video game you remember playing, and like some of like console, like either first console or console you still play now.
Wow. First video game, man. This is gonna give my age out, but like I remember playing Star Wars on the Atari.
Nice.
Way back in the day. I didn't know how to play it. I don't know what I was playing, but I remember that. But I remember playing that because it sucks. It was just like this little dot. It was like the one where you're on Hoth and you just kind of fly.
Oh, yes.
You have the AT-ATs walking. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and just crash right into it. And then I would play Gyroscope. I forgot what it was. I think it was a called Gyro. It's basically the game that comes with Rob the Robot, and it's like this.
Oh, yes,
you play this little professor, and you open up these pillars and things like that. Yeah, I played that, and then from Mario all the way down. But like, what I'm playing. Like, did you say what I'm playing now, or what?
Or like if there's a console you've played over the years, like countless times, or if you want to talk about what you're playing now, either or.
The console that I go back to, I mean, mostly they're going to be like emulators, but I would say like Super NES, like any game from that era. Yeah, Super NES is like it holds a special place in my heart. The top three of those are, Super Metroid.
Okay.
Man, it's a toss-up, but like Super Metroid, I really enjoyed. Link to the Past, and then like Chrono Trigger. But then I also like.
Okay, you said the magic word Chrono Trigger. Right? That's like one of my favorite JRPGs.
I play Chrono Trigger over and over again, man. I just, even though I know what's gonna happen, like I just keep playing it over and over again. Totally love that game. But I also like the Mega Man X series.
Yes,
just the whole Mega Man games like that. That was like my jam back in the day. So, but right now, I don't really have too much time to play. I'll play just to kind of keep up with things. But Destiny 2's like, I guess, like my home game. It's the easy game to kind of jump in and out. I know it's like kind of waning in popularity and in population right now, but been playing a little bit of that. Been playing some Path of Exile 2.
Okay.
Play a little bit of Baldur's Gate, jumping back into Ghost of Tsushima before the new Ghost of Tsushima comes out. Or Ghost of Yotei, I should say. So that's kind of what's been keeping me like busy for the most part. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Alpha Fang says, Chrono Trigger, rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. Yeah, it was just his 1 year anniversary of his passing too, I think, recently and stuff. So he classic, yes. So my first game I ever played was Super Mario Brothers for the NES. I actually just rebought a Super Nintendo because I used to have like when I collected back in the day, like 10 years ago, I had Chrono Trigger. I had some really rare games. I had Mega Man X3. I had Earthbound, all kinds of stuff. I just rebought a Super Nintendo. That was like the real console I've played. I still say probably one of the best libraries ever, especially like in terms of third party.
I agree.
I'm a huge Earthbound fan too. So my friend brought this for me from Japan.
Oh, Starman. There you go. There you go. Yeah.
So that, and I don't have them with me, Mr. Saturn. I also have a yo-yo from back when Fan Gamer used to sell Earthbound and stuff. So, man, some top games though for me. I mean, of course, Chrono Trigger 2. Like the music's so good. I almost did a Magus cosplay one time. So I'm gonna have to, after this conversation, I might have to go back and actually
do it.
So,
Heck yeah.
Well, almost did a Magus cosplay one time, but so. Turtles in Time, I would say classic.
Turtles in Time.
First Mega Man X. Of course, Street Fighter. I'm a huge Street Fighter guy.
Yeah.
I actually just did a run through of Link to the Past on my gaming channel recently too. It's like a 8-hour VOD. So I tried doing a randomizer. I'm not good at it. Like I kind of know where everything's at, but it's just the glitches. Like
Yeah,
having to know the glitches and stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly.
it's just crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but what I'm currently playing now, I was playing a little bit of Marvel Rivals, not so much anymore now, but I've yet to play Ghost of Tsushima, but my friends that are probably listening, they've been egging me to play it. I'm definitely gonna
Oh, you should play it.
for sure.
Yeah, they have this
Yeah.
cool. I don't know when this mode came. I literally just started playing a couple weeks ago, but it's called God, Legendary Mode or something, and
Hmm.
it's like this multiplayer thing. I was like, this is pretty dope. And you pick between four classes. It's like a samurai, a hunt, like a archer, a ronin, and like an assassin. And you just kind of go through, this basic sandbox where there's enemies and complete objectives, but you're playing with someone else. And I was like, oh, it's pretty dope. So if you already done the game or
Hmm.
you want to just try something different, I guess totally a new thing. But Ghost of Tsushima is awesome. I would say it's probably one of the better like sword fighting games of the time out there.
Okay.
Not to kind of like crap on any other things, but like to
Right.
me, it feels the best. So, um, yeah, and all the shout out to Daisuke Tuji too. So he's a dope guy. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, my friends have. I have some friends too that are hardcore Ghost of Tsushima fans. They're like, nah, this is way better than Soul. So yeah, I know some people. There's that kind of a divide, but like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
still cool that they have, and I think my friend praised like how accurate it was too. I think to that era and stuff
Yeah,
like
and
that.
they did
So
a really good job. Like the team, really did the research, and it would just look little things of like I think in the opening shot, like they have an arrow that's flying. I think it's like a flaming arrow or something where there's a significance of that, and they actually got the historical reference for that. The only thing is like the armor, but like it's fine when you do game day. It's like if you stick to one like era, it's like it gets pretty boring. So like you have all these different types of armor that didn't currently exist at that time, but like it's a game. You have fun
mhm.
with it. So, but yeah, no, they did a really good job on that. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the one other game I was going to mention I'm playing right now. Have you heard of Vampire Survivor? Or
yes,
okay, I'm not playing that now,
yeah,
but I'm playing something called Karate Survivor, which is ironic because it's very Jackie Chan inspired.
that's
So I
funny.
would call it Kung Fu Survivor, but it's like the player has like the same attire that he had in that Jackie Chan had in the supermarket fight of Rumble in the Bronx, and the first level is
That's
a
funny.
supermarket. So
Uh,
it's really cool too because you have like three different styles you can choose from.
uh,
So the more of the same color of attacks, you get a combo damage. But also, if you do them in numerical order, you get a bigger AOE effect and
wow.
whatnot
So is
too.
it similar to Vampire Survivor, where
Yes,
like you just
bullet
kind of
hell.
walk around and
Yeah.
wow,
So
okay,
yeah,
that's super addicting. That's why I was like, I ain't gonna play that because I guess I'm gonna be like, no, this is super addicting. I'm gonna not be able to like sleep if I keep playing this game.
yeah,
So
it's super fun. If you ever get a chance, check it out. It's $5 on Steam, I think. And
cool,
yeah,
cool, cool.
it's but they even do like stuff like they're like in certain levels too. Like for example, you get in the recliner, you can spin around and kick people. You can do
Mm.
like the grab on the pole and spit, and you can like flap. It's just so
That's
cool.
cool.
Yeah. So
Awesome, awesome.
yeah, but definitely. All right, so I know you're a big Destiny fan. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of actually did some consulting with my fiance and my future brother-in-law because they're Destiny
Mhm.
players and stuff like that. So one big question, what is it that keeps bringing you back to the game?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I ask myself that too.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's just like the ease of play. It's not like I started in Destiny 1. My best friend, he's like a brother from another mother, got me into it.
Hmm.
And it was during the Taken King expansion. It was like when things started to pick up apparently. And again, the story is not wasn't the greatest in Destiny 1. You had to read all this stuff through like a offline grimoire database, and you couldn't learn any of the lore in game. You had to go off, and it was kind of a annoyance. But people who dug it, you got to learn all that stuff. And over time, the narrative has gotten better. But I would say what brings me back is just the fact that I think right now I've just invested so much time in it.
Hmm.
You're just like, okay, what's next? And honestly, like all the friends who I used to play Destiny with, they don't even play anymore. So
That's
I'm
fair.
just
Yeah.
there by myself, just kind of like playing and doing, just like the solo stuff. But um, I think it's just over time too. Like in for me, because I've paid for like the expansion,
Right.
I'm just kind of getting my money's worth. Like I don't know how much more I'm going to keep going. It all really depends on like uh, what they do with the game,
Mm-hmm.
because it is getting kind of repetitive. They have the same things over it, but at the same time, like I've been on the game dev side too, and I've been part of that, so um, I understand how difficult it is to bring things that
Right.
people want, to constantly trying to reinvent, especially because it's a live service game where there is really no end to it. Like you just keep on playing, um, and that's tough. I think right, at the time, Destiny 2 was the most successful live service game. I mean, obviously, like Marvel, Rivals is totally taking them by storm, but
Mm-hmm.
every other game studio is trying to get a piece of that, and you know, Destiny just found that winning combo. And to me, I think it's just that ease of play. Like you could just jump in. For me, at least, because I don't. It's not like there's no learning curve. It's like I already know the character. I know the weapons. I know what I need to do. And if I'm just like killing like an hour or two, just like kind of jump in and kind of do it. Like I don't. I used to play like for a long time, but now I'm just like, yeah, man. All right, I'm done, and then just kind of
Yeah.
put it away. But yeah, like I think I stuck around because they just finished their what they call the Light and Dark saga, right? All the way from Destiny 1 to now. That just culminated, I would say, last year. So but after that, it's just kind of like, okay, well, I did pay for the rest of this, so let's just see what they bring.
Right.
And until they bring something like really good, I don't know if I'm gonna be, jumping in on the next couple stuff, but we'll see. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, like I've been playing other games to just kind of alleviate that, to jump in. Like, PoE 2 is really fun. I'm not that type of game too. Like I'm more of like a narratively driven type game. So I like the God of Wars. I like the Days Gone. I like what else is there? Cyberpunks and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. Fallout 4. So those type of games really draw me. But Path to Exile is just kind of fun. Like I think it's kind of the same grind that Destiny has, where you just kind of keep going through like the dungeons, and you just like keep bashing bad guys until something cool pops up. And you're like, ooh, look at that,
Right.
something shiny, right? But until something like if a new like narratively driven game comes out, like I'm all about that. Like I'll just like play that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but until then, it's like, yeah, it's like whatever games like tide me over that I don't have to buy. I keep buying, and I'll go for that. So, but yeah, that's a good question about like why I keep going back
Yeah,
to
and
that.
I didn't mean like just like hey this game because like
No, no, yeah,
yeah, I tried getting a Destiny 2. I only played it for a little bit, but I'm always
yeah,
kind of like maybe I get some inspiration from you to try to get back into it and whatnot.
yeah.
So are you a wrestling? Were you like a wrestling fan growing up by chance?
No,
Oh,
never
okay.
watched wrestling. Yeah,
Gotcha. Fair.
so.
Well, yeah, I was gonna mention because like I know if you ever heard of the wrestler Sting,
Mhm,
his
yeah,
son,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, his
yeah,
son's actually a big Destiny 2
yeah,
gamer and stuff. Like, he had like a YouTube channel he started kind of doing and whatnot.
yeah,
So Garrett Borden. So yeah, I was because like I'm kind of like the way where like I just jump around a game so much. Like I'm like
yeah,
ADHD. Like I
yeah,
can be like super. Like say for example, if I want to go back and play Chrono Trigger, I'm super locked in for like a month, but then I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I'm tired of this, and then
yeah,
that's just
yeah.
kind of how I am and stuff like that too. But my fiance wants to know is what's your favorite Destiny puzzle?
Are you talking about like a raid mechanic or like a dungeon thing or?
Maybe I'm sure she'll probably answer here in
Yeah,
a second
I mean,
too.
if I mean, honestly, like all the raid mechanics are kind of infuriating. But man, that's a good. In terms of Destiny altogether, I really like the raid mechanic for
Yeah. Oh, she said in a raid. Yes.
in a raid.
Yeah.
Man, it's the Siva one. I forget
Okay.
what it was called, but basically, like the way you go about it in Destiny 2, is like you have to solve these puzzles in order to get to a damage phase so you can damage the boss. But the Siva raid boss, that was pretty fun. Like you get to juggle a lot of things. I think the second of that is like I really enjoyed like the Deep Stone Crypt type end raid boss. That was pretty fun. it's very similar to the Vespers Hold, this new dungeon that they had. But so I kind of like that one, where it's not so make or break. Like it has a little bit of forgiveness there. Like if you mess up, it's not a complete wipe. You're just like and then everybody gets mad and starts throwing the controller. You're like, okay, well, let's try again. Let's refocus, do it again. That kind of stuff. Where those type of puzzles I enjoy, where you're not really like just swarmed with a bunch of enemies too. You're like, okay, everybody has a job. Your ad cleared. You go drop that whatever item into that hole over there, and whenever this boss pops up, shoot him there. That kind of stuff is really cool. So, but yeah, I guess the Oryx last, the Taken raid too, that was pretty fun too. So, but if you don't know what you're doing for those, like you really can't help. You're just literally just like, I don't know what I'm doing. The other ones I mentioned, even if you don't know what you're doing, you can still kind of figure out by like, okay, I'm kind of seeing what people are doing. I can kind of help out with this one, and because it's such a small arena. If you're just literally just like slaying out ads, like you're helping. Even if you like have no job, you're like, I'm killing everything. I'm helping, right? And they're like, yeah, you're doing good. Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay,
What
that's
is
cool.
she? What is your fiance? Does she play Destiny 2 or does it just play Destiny?
Yeah, we were playing Destiny 2. I don't. She'll probably type what she played in, or play
Nice.
what class and stuff. But I think we tried this like 2 or 3 years ago almost. It seems
Yeah.
like too. It's been a while. So, but like lately, I know she's been playing Infinity Nikki, some Marvel
Oh,
Rivals.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Um, we're also Fortnite gamers. I know a lot of people give it a lot of crap, but it's one of
Hey,
those
it's
things.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's one of those things like if you're in a call with friends and stuff, it's super fun.
It's
Like,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a party. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Um, no, yeah, I get it. Destiny 2 is a hard game to get into. Like if you
Mhm.
haven't, and I think that's the one of the biggest drawbacks for Destiny 2, where it's not an easy game to get your friends into. Like even when I started with Destiny 1, like there was like so much stuff that I was like trying to catch up to. Like people who I was playing with, like, well, you don't have this yet. And I was like, I just started. Like I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right, right.
And like you're literally just trying to play catch up, and you can't actually do a lot of the activities that your friends are doing because you're either under leveled or you just don't have the gear that you need to do that. So yeah, it's a tough gag. I have friends who played it and they're like, yeah, never again. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I'm like there's like this one area that's kind of like it's supposed to be like a what you call like a tutorial mission
Hmm.
of sorts. It's in the Cosmodrome, and it's supposed to be like you do it and then it leads you out into like the major like world. And my buddy just got stuck in there. He's like, I keep fighting this goddamn tank over and over again. It doesn't, and there's this tank just keeps spawning. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, you're supposed to leave. He's like, where? I'm
Right.
like, you're supposed to like leave afterwards. But yeah, it's not very intuitive. You're like, if you just, you think, oh, I beat the boss, something's gonna happen. And then the longer you stay, another tank will come down, and like you have
Right.
to fight it again and fight it again. So
Yeah.
like he was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not playing this game anymore. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. She said Warlock, which I think one of the other questions I was going to ask you favorite because I think that we looked at your Instagram. So favorite hunter,
yeah.
subclass, and build.
Yeah, so I'm a hunter main. So Miyagi's a hunter main. Sorry guys. But I'm not a toxic hunter, so like I don't do that. But really just I like the hunter because I'm always more I lean towards characters that are more like stealth and quickness and things like that. So I was like, oh, plus I feel like the hunter has the best jump for beginners, like who
Ah,
have
okay.
never really played the game, because it's just a jump. Like the Titans and the Warlocks have kind of like this floaty type jump, and if you're not used to it, like it's so frustrating because you're just like, I just want to jump up, but then you'll just kind of float forward as a warlock and then just fall, and you're like, well, I don't get how to do this. So
Right.
I just kind of stuck with it. So yeah, hunter is just, and plus I don't have the money to play all three classes, because then I know I'll buy all the freaking like cosmetics and things like that. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna stick with a hunter, just to get one, that's fine. um, and I just sort of just stuck with that ever since Destiny 1. I'm like, I know how to play the other classes, but um, it's just easier. Like I don't have to repeat over and over again, same, do the same dungeon and the same activity to level up my Titan or my Warlock and stuff like that. I people are like, you should just have 3 hunters. I'm like, yeah, I should have, but it's okay. I'm not that like loot driven, you know. I'm like, if I don't get like the exotic in the dungeon or in a raid, I'm like, so what? That's fine. If I do get it, it's fun, but half the time it just stays in my vault and I don't really use it anyway. So
Right.
I just kind of use the ones that are fun to use, and it just stays in my inventory the whole time. So
There you go.
yeah,
Yeah. She just said, yeah, her brother, my future brother-in-law, plays mostly Hunter too and stuff like that. Too. I
nice.
think it's kind of why he was had like some really good questions and whatnot. So, are you a PVE guy too?
I play PVE. I mean PVE is like my main thing. I don't really
Okay.
I play PvP, but like PvP in Destiny, it's tough, man. Like it's like
Hmm.
sometimes it's just a grind. Like, it's fun when you have friends playing PvP. If you're doing solo for PvP, unless you're like a hardcore player, like I feel like it's it's kind of torture, especially if you're going against people who are mouse and keyboard. Even though I don't
Right.
think I have mine that's cross now, but yeah, and then you'll get people who are cheating, and then you just have people who are just like super toxic in the community. That's the one thing about the Destiny community. It's like it's just a game, guys. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to be, you know, so negative about it. But I'll play PvP when I need to, like if it's like an event that I need to do it, or there's an event in Destiny 2 called Rise of no Iron Banner. We call it Iron Banana for I don't know why. I guess it just
Right.
sounds funny, but yeah, I got really into it for before this whole like Cobra Kai thing, just for having a presence in social media, because apparently it's important for being an actor. I'm not much of a social media person. I don't really do a lot of stuff like that. So I was like, man, I gotta do something. I gotta post something. Otherwise, like, and the easiest thing that I could think of was just posting the Destiny 2 fashion. Just
Yeah.
like
Why not?
put it up, and then it actually kind of got to a point where I was in the community for it. I haven't done it lately. Just haven't had the time to do it. But some of these, like, I wouldn't call them rare, but like nice shaders, basically, are like what you can color your armor with. Only come out with certain events, and Iron Banner is one of them. So I'll be like, all right, I guess I have to grind this just to get this one shader, even though I'm like, I'm probably never gonna like do another build again. If I do, it'll probably be like way later down the line. But it's just kind of nice to have. It's fun. It's like in one part of the Destiny thing that kind of gets overlooked, that you can do like this really cool customization of your character.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah, so like they brought it in Destiny 2 where you can literally swap any piece of armor. Oh, I mean, it's arms, chest, head, legs, and then whatever your class armor or class item is for hunters, it's a cloak. But you can interchange anything, and then you can color it however way you want to. I mean, within reason, within whatever the shader colors are. So within the fashion Destiny fashion thing, it's like if you can make a pretty cool looking character or build with all your armor is different and all the shaders are different, like you're using 5 pieces of armor, 5 different shaders, that's supposed to be a pretty good accomplishment, and it's supposed to look pretty cohesive. So I always kind of strive to do that, but you only have so many things you can do, because yeah, otherwise you're gonna be broke. You can buy all
Right.
this stuff, it's like nah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Hey, before I jump into my next question, we're 30
Sure.
minutes in. You feeling all right? How much? I just want to
Yeah,
make sure I'm
good.
conscious of your
We're good.
time. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the customization thing I totally get because I'm taking a break from it now, but I was really big into Final Fantasy 14 for a bit, so I had a whole bunch
Mm,
of glamour and stuff like that. I actually have a alternate account named Narioshi Miyagi that I own, which is nice.
nice.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, I haven't progressed too far in it yet, but I think I started him off like as a monk or like a pugilist and stuff like that too to kind of the whole
Awesome.
thing. But
Awesome.
yeah, that might be actually a good reason for me to get back into Destiny. Is like the fashion or the glamour, as like Final
Yeah.
Fantasy 14 would call. So now I guess here's another question: would you ever go back and do a Miyagi Do build?
Oh, of course. I
Yeah.
tried. But the thing is, it doesn't really work for the hunter build. Like, because again, because again, the cloak is what is kind of tough, because I
Hmm.
always have some sort of hood thing. So I'm like, yeah, I actually tried. I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to make something that looks like Miyagi, and it didn't work out like
Yeah,
that.
that's fair.
But yeah, I think I made a Miyagi in Animal Crossing. I made a
Oh, me
Miyagi
too. I
there.
mean,
Yeah.
and well, Was it? What's the newest one? Horizons
It's the
on the Switch.
yeah, on the Switch.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I need to
forget
send you
the
my Miyagi that I've made too. 'Cause I'd
yeah, no,
like to see
mine's a
yours.
goofy looking dude. Like the face like completely doesn't look like him, but just he's wearing just the suit.
Yeah, same.
And I made a couple Mii's that then I turned into Mii fighters in Super Smash. That is
That's
Miyagi.
awesome.
So yeah. So yeah, I've done that, but I've been looking around and say like, what else could I make as a Miyagi type thing?
Street
But,
Fighter 6. I actually made one on. I need to
that's
show you
right.
later. Yeah, yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. So I'll try again,
Yeah.
but it's tough. And I don't have too much stuff unlocked for on all the other classes to do that. I think it would probably work best as a Titan because they don't have anything, but I don't think they have anything that looks like a workman shirt or or like a bald head and stuff like that. But that'd be pretty dope running around as a Miyagi looking Titan. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Scorch, hey, welcome in, by the way. He says, I'm not sure what game he's referring to. Maybe he's Destiny or something else. He says he could make a Miyagi classic car lot, I guess, in a car game or something like that.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not sure what game he's referring to, but it could be an idea too. So
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Destiny, Lance Reddick, rest in peace. It's funny though, like the first thing I knew him from is Eric Andre, where he's like,
Eric Andre,
you need to do desk.
We hit the desk. Yeah.
So, but he was a big part of the Destiny lore too, because of one of the characters he played. So, I guess
Commander Zavala,
it kind of leads into this other question too. Favorite piece of lore or factoid from the universe?
Oh, from Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Man, there's so much. That's the thing. The writers in Destiny, when they get going, man, they get going. It's pretty dope. I really enjoyed there's these weapons in Destiny 2 called the Weapons of Sorrow, I might be mispronouncing, but basically they're like these. I don't know if they're cursed. I'm not a big like super lore person for Destiny. I know some of it, but there was a hunter called Dredgen Yor, and he had a gun called the Thorn, and he would go around and basically kill other guardians. And then there was his counterpart was Shin Malphur, who was a hunter who created the first golden gun. And within Destiny, they have these supers. They're basically your ultras, and he created basically a flaming gun that can just one shot anything, and it was Shin Malphur versus Dredgen Yor. I always thought that was a really interesting like storyline. It's really cool. It leans into the whole space sci-fi fantasy type thing where you have like your knight type character, but they did in Destiny 2 they did a mission where you actually reacquire the Thorn. And you see like how that played out. You actually see like the shadow imprint of Dredgen Yor after he got shot by this golden gun on a rock. So that kind of stuff is really cool. They have a really very vast library of lore and stuff like that. But I think as a hunter main, like anything that kind of revolves around that's really cool. I like the whole Eris Morn stuff. She's a character that went into I believe it was the moon, and in the moon it's like this stronghold for an enemy race called the Hive, and out of her fire team she was the only one to survive, but she had to kind of like lean into the Hive magic, and she lost her light, but then she gained the ability to I guess use Hive magic. But a lot of people think she's a warlock, but she's actually a hunter. So I was like, cool, probably the best spoken character in that game. Yeah, her vocabulary is very, very diverse. So really, really cool. But that kind of stuff, I really dig. But there's a lot of things in that universe that you could just pick apart. It's really cool. So
that's awesome. Yeah, this is kind of making me want to honestly go back and try, because I gave it a shot, and I just couldn't get into it at the time, but like it was really cool, and I don't even remember what class I was or anything. My fiance would probably remember and stuff, so maybe I'll have to fire it up and have to
just try it. I mean, what do you play on? Are you play on
PC
Xbox
mostly?
Or
yeah,
PC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm on, I'll send you an invite. We could just kind of go through stuff, if I have time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But like, it's like I said, it is a tough game to get into because like they literally just throw you into the universe and there's all this stuff that you can't even access anymore that is part of this story and you're like, wait, so when do I do that? It's like, oh no, you can't do that anymore. You just do this.
Dang.
Just
I
do this
got you.
thing. And I think they have now where they have like little missions from each one of those expansions, so you can kind of get a little taste of that story.
Right.
So, but I haven't done those, so I'm not the quote. Don't quote me on that. So I don't
No,
know,
sure,
but
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask about, I saw parts of it, but I haven't seen the whole
Mhm.
thing. But you made a short film called Praey, and
Oh
whatnot,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so I definitely respect anybody that makes any kind of film work and stuff. Because like
yeah.
when I was 18 and senior in high school, you'll never see this film because it'll never make the light of day. But me and my friends made a short film on the Double Dragon video game. It was like a 20-minute film
Oh,
and whatnot.
nice,
Like, I mean, obviously this was before I had martial arts experience and stuff. But we like it was Billy
awesome.
and Jimmy beating up the Shadow Warriors and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So, when looking at the description of Prey, you said it was kind of mostly based on Walking Dead, which admittedly I've only seen a few episodes of, but it
Mhm.
definitely reminded me of Resident Evil. So just tell me kind of how the concept of the film
Yeah,
came about. So
that's great that you brought that up. So when I came up with that concept, it was right around the time where Fear the Walking Dead was announced, and this was like still very much out there. And I think the director was called McG at the time,
mhm.
and there was this rumor that came. I don't know if it's true or not, but that McG was looking at inspiration because it's supposed to be set in LA, but inspiration from fan films of The Walking Dead to kind of see like, I was like, well, shoot, let's just make one. And during the time, I had a group of friends who were just all actors, and then or just
Excuse
people
me.
in the industry, and then we're just kind of tired of just waiting around. So
Right.
I was like, well, I've never been that type to kind of just be like, oh, say something and not do it. So I'm like, you know what? I'll write the script. I'll try to fund it as much as I can. And we got just a spec script written out. Kind of just, it was basically just a scene, and then we just went out and we shot it. But it was really at the grace of like the guys, everybody who volunteered their time to do that. So but that was it. It was kind of like this our audition tape for a possible, I don't know, being part of this Fear the Walking Dead. We didn't have no idea what the show was going to be about, but everybody in that group who were performing were all big fans of The Walking Dead. So even from the comic book side all the way to the show. So, but that's kind of it. We took inspiration for some of the episodes where they kind of play with the timeline
Mhm.
of so you don't know when is the future, when is the present, when's the past, and things
Oh,
like
so it
that.
jumps
So
around. Okay.
it jumps around. But again, this was like the first time that I've ever did anything like that. I've always been in front of camera talent, never really did anything in the back. But I was like, well, let's try it. And it was like all I paid for really was just prosthetics, food, costumes, and special effects and things like that. And then everyone else volunteered their time and their talent, and I couldn't have done it without those
Right.
guys. But and it was not like you said, it wasn't really meant to be seen in light of day. We just like kind of put it out there, but it was fun and we're kind of proud of it. So we're like, let's just put it up on YouTube, and you never know what will happen. But that actually led us to create a web series. We were like, well, let's just keep doing it as long as we can,
Mhm.
and we created a web series with the sole purpose of just showcasing the talents of the people who were involved. So we had some actors who wanted to be stunt guys. We had some stunt guys who wanted to be actors. We had um, our DP was at the time in the industry. I think he was like the assistant to the DP and stuff like that. So he wanted to build up his resume. Big shout out to John Takanaka. He's great DP out there. So um, and then we had the main character was a good friend of mine. He passed away in 2023. His name is
I'm sorry to
Kurt
hear.
Kuniyoshi. Yeah, and he, I first approached him with this character, and it was supposed to be a Japanese American, and it's stuff that I've never seen before, something that I would watch on TV. But it's a Japanese American who used to be a hired gun hitman, assassin, whatever you call it, retired, older. I would say like in his early 70s, late 60s, and like most stories, is drawn back into that world. And this is like way before John Wick or any of like the Taken, all that stuff. Like this, I've never seen an old guy get into like action and like really get down into it. So we just did it, and I remember talking to Kurt. He's like, I can't play this, man. Like this is not me. I don't do this kind of stuff. I don't know how to do. I'm like, no, you can do it, Kurt. He's like, but I do like musicals, and I do like it's not, I do like camp songs, and I'm like, nah, man, I think this is you. You could do it. And he had a blast doing it, and you could tell like the performance he gives on it is pretty cool. So, but really, it was just a way to just like you could put it onto your reel and be like, hey, this is what I did. And I think for like having like zero budget on that, like we did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And having basically the second time doing something like that, I think everybody did a pretty outstanding job. I mean, it's not perfect, I'm not gonna say like it's like, Oscar winning stuff. But for the most part, I think it's pretty enjoyable to watch. But it all started from Praey, it just started with just like, hey, this is kind of fun. Let's just keep doing our stuff. But of course, it just takes a long time because you're not doing it for the money. You don't have money to actually like pay people. It's just all out of like the grace of their donations of their time and their,
Right.
skill, their equipment, and things like that. So it took a long time to get a lot of those things produced. I think it took us like every episode took like a year just to shoot it and then edit everything and get it out. But nah, it was fun. But that's basically it for Prey. It was like just a way to see if we could even get on the Fear of the Walking Dead. And it did, of course, it didn't happen. And the show turned out to be completely different than what we thought it was going to be. But yeah, we still have it. And again, if people want to check it out, it's on my YouTube page. So
Yeah, definitely.
be
Yeah.
kind. It's not again. It's first attempt. So
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it's really cool. And after the live ends, I'm gonna go back, timestamp everything, and update descriptions and stuff. So we'll definitely put a link to it. And yeah, no, like I mean, I respect it too. Because like I had Brandon H. Lee on the channel not too long ago, and I know he loves making comedy skits, and I just it's really cool to see you guys do stuff like that. Because it reminds me of that camaraderie I had back in high school when we made Double Dragon and stuff. And like even now too, he's like making these like one of my favorites of his, because I'm a Power Rangers guy too, is R-rated Rangers. It's just so funny seeing it.
Yeah,
it's
dope.
Yeah, it's just so funny seeing like Quan and then
exactly.
Parody of Tommy.
He's so different from this guy. Brandon's such a dope guy. Like,
he's so
just
cool,
a quick
man.
story. Like, on the premiere, for part 3, it's chaos. And if you're ever part of something like that, it's literally chaos. So, and I literally just happened to just bump into Brandon. We're just waiting to get our pictures taken. And such a nice young man, man. Like, he's just, I say that because he's younger than me, but like, and he's taller than me too, but that's fine. But really, really cool. He's like, he introduced himself, and he's like, oh man, I know, you play Young Miyagi. It's like, yeah, and got to know each other. But really, really dope guy. And for being someone at his age too, to have that much, poise and just like, just
humility,
coolness, I could say, right? Yeah, it's really refreshing to see. So, big shout out to Brandon. If he's watching. So,
yeah, love Brandon, fan of the show. What for me, like what really humbled me with him. I mean, I'm humble about my YouTube stuff, or I try to be anyway. But like, I died inside when he told me, like, yeah, your voice sounds familiar. I'm a fan of your work, and I'm like, oh my god,
Nice.
It's just like, of course, Cobra Kai is one of my favorite shows ever, and just to hear, him say that too, and he's definitely also one of the inspirations of me, getting into martial arts, because I just started Taekwondo back in August after part 1.
Oh, cool! Congratulations.
Thank you. So it's just to kind of hear like a guy that I look up to is also inspired by me, and said, hey, like, because one of the things he really said to, and I told him about this. I told him privately, thank you, was that like when I was interacting with him on Dallas Dupree Young, who plays Kenny, they were streaming together back in November. And after I got off the Discord call, because we were doing a Q&A, he's like, that dude's got a badass voice. And I was just like, I was like, man, that's so cool. Like that to hear him a compliment. And he's such a cool guy. And infinite thanks to Brandon. Of course, he's really, really cool. So
nice.
But speaking of martial arts, I know you've got back into martial arts recently too. And please, excuse me if I mispronounce this wrong, because you trained with your dad in Shorinji Kempo? Is
Yeah,
that correct?
Shorinji Kempo.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How has it been getting back into it? Because you studied as a child and didn't study for a while.
Yeah,
Like, and it's kind of like we're both kind of going through that same thing as adults of like, hey, we're
yeah,
doing martial arts. Like, how's your
yeah.
experience been with it? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, that's thanks for asking. Like
Yes.
it's really interesting because I noticed, I mean, I realize now the stuff that my dad taught me is not the beginner stuff. It's like stuff that you learn later on, but it's just like, it's basically he showed me a stance that's it's not something that you learn when you're a white belt,
Right.
but it's probably the most universal stance. Um, oh God, I'm forgetting the name, but it's called hustle, I believe, and you're basically just doing this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in Shorinji Kempo, they have all these different stances that are for different things. And it really, Shorinji Kempo is meant for just defense. It's not really an offensive thing. It is, but that's what it is. He would have me. He would stand in this, and he would just be like, "Come and attack," and I'm like, "Okay." And then, of course, I would get beat up, and and then he would be like, "This is what you did wrong." But going into it, it's like all of these other stances that you're supposed to learn first before you do that. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. But I think that's it for like, for you too. It's like doing martial arts is a very humbling thing, even if
Mm-hmm.
you've done martial arts. Because again, I did Shorinji Kempo first, and then after that, I did Shotokan. And I did primarily Shotokan for a while. And then I did other, styles like, I did a little bit of Wing Chun, I did a little bit of Krav Maga, a little bit of like, a little bit of like aikido and things like that. You just kind of learn as you go along. People
Right.
teach you, but I would say my body got most used to like a Shotokan style position, and that is completely different for like Shorinji Kempo. Like the stances, like the leg distance is different. Like even the way they hold their fist is different for Shotokan. Like you do this, and then you have this up against your chest or about here, ready to go, and then you turn and you punch at the very twist and punch.
Mm-hmm.
Shorinji Kempo doesn't do that. Shorinji Kempo, you basically it's like boxing and you punch straight and you
I see.
use here as opposed to here. And that just kind of so everything is again
Oh
you're a
yes,
novice
yes.
again. Yeah, so it's humbling and it's really cool because I'm like there's stuff that I know, like there's like I know like the principles of like how to do a kick and a punch is like, but like to do it in that specific style is very very different, and it's really cool that the people in the class that I'm taking, that like they can tell that I've done martial arts, but at the same time they're like, yeah, you don't know what you're doing. I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm
Right.
trying to
Right.
figure it out. So it's just for at least for me, like for a person, I think we just need to go through things like that just to
Mm-hmm.
constantly be, humble to be like, okay, you're constantly learning. You're always learning something, and I think martial arts puts that in the forefront because if you don't do it right, you can get hurt or you could hurt somebody. So
Right.
so that's the one thing I've learned, like taking it up again, and also the fact that like I'm very, very, very rusty. Like I gotten to the point where if I'm doing some sort of like martial arts or stunts, like I'm the one who's like choreographing it, or if I'm doing it, I'm the one who's getting beat up. So it's like I do this and just get beat up and then fall down, which is like, super easy, super critical, but super easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then to actually do it for real and like learn, why this movement has to be here and here as opposed to just doing this, right?
Right.
And you're like, oh, your hand needs to be here, or like it has to be this position, that position. And I'm like, oh yeah, I missed that. And I remember that's not just so willy nilly like that. So, but it's really cool. Yeah, it's reconnecting me to things that I haven't done in a long time. So yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was gonna respond to that real quick, but I'm gonna get some quick comments from the chat too. So they
sure.
said your story with Brandon was really awesome with the premiere. Jeremy Austin says my wife and I enjoyed Brian as Young Miyagi in part three, or excuse me, probably part two is what they meant to say. But yeah,
Yeah.
if and of course this is something that I definitely want to ask you about. But Jimmy says if there was a Young Mr. Miyagi spinoff, you need to play him. I think we're all rooting for you to play that too. So yeah. But yeah, no, it's I when I was like 7 or 8, I don't know what style of karate, so I couldn't remember, but I took karate for like maybe I don't know 3 weeks or something. I just stopped, and
Mhm.
I'd always wanted to get back into it, and then so I got back into it, or excuse me, I got started taking Taekwondo back in August, and yeah, it was really humbling too because like it also kind of like was like, man, I was like that first class was like, man, I would get my ass kicked out on the street, if I were to go in there now. But
Mhm.
so now
Yeah.
I'm, it's been a lot of fun. I'm like one of the only adults in the class, but it's so humbling because like my grandmaster's really cool. Self-respect, respect for others. Confidence
Nice.
in
Nice.
yourself too. So, and I've also been finding out things I like to do. Like for me, like karate, for example, has kata, and taekwondo has pumse, which is kind of the same thing as forms and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's like, that's I love doing like of course breaking as like another favorite thing of mine too. So,
Mhm.
but it's just what it also is really doing too is kind of helping heal my inner child, and I think I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
get to a point where like once I reach black belt, I'd like to kind of help teach the class too, like even like an
Oh
assistant
yeah.
instructor, because like I know what it's like to be, growing up I was bullied and stuff like that. So like I would love to be able to pass on the confidence that I wish I would have had when I was younger, to
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
actually this happened the other day was that like on my uniform I got some patches recently because I just made it to yellow belt black stripe at the end of January.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. And I'm
Mhm.
hoping to test for orange belt end of this month. So I got best form again. So I had like two best forms. I think I have best breaking, best sparring, and best kicking. And this and
Awesome.
this younger kid was like, he's like, you got best form twice. How good is your form? And it was just kind of funny. I was like, it's all right. I said, hey, just practice, man. You'll get it too. So it's cool. Even like just that, and he was like my training partner for the day too.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man. It's just like everybody's like equal level there, like in the
Yeah.
class, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really cool. So
And that's the cool thing about martial arts. It's really no, it's an equalizer. Like, it
hmm
doesn't matter what your age is or your experience level and stuff like that. It's just everyone, for the most part, like the groups I've been to, it's all very, supportive and helpful.
right,
Everyone's there to kind of like make sure that you're being taken care of and stuff like that. But that's basically what martial arts is, right? It's you learn, and again, it's very much in kin with like what Miyagi
hmm
would tell, where it's like you learn to not fight, right?
right,
You learn,
exactly,
so like, and it's not even just like, oh, being a pacifist. It's just like you learn that the situation that you're getting into can possibly lead to a fight. So you're like, okay, I better avoid that, right? And it's easier said than done, right? Because
hmm
especially if someone's making you upset or is trying to harm someone that you care about, it's like, oh, but the ramifications right now of you getting into a fight or even remotely harming something, it's not even like you getting hurt. It's like all this legal stuff and all the
yep,
other stuff, and also, it's very dangerous because there's no rules, right? You can
right,
know all these forms and kata, but if they pull out a knife or a gun or something, then it's like, what are you gonna do,
exactly,
So martial arts just keeps you in. And the one thing I ever learned from martial arts is that it allows you to remain calm
hmm
in a very tense situation. And I've noticed that from my absence of martial arts, that has kind of waned. Like especially like if you're like driving and stuff like that, you get really upset, road rage. But martial arts really helps you kind of temper that. You're like, okay, like you realize, okay, I'm getting upset, I'm getting agitated. Like, what can I do to alleviate that? If it is a confrontation, how can I de-escalate this? But at the same time, keep my distance. Keep my hands up without making it look like I'm doing something, right? Just to
right,
be like, hey, um, and people who like all the people I know, and this leans into like Mr. Miyagi, who
hmm
are the chillest, you know, easy-go-lucky. I would even say to the point where you could not even fathom them beating someone up, are very deadly people.
right,
Like the most scariest people
yeah,
because they know so much. But like you're like, what? That guy, her, that person? You're like, no, yeah, you don't. And they're usually the ones who would like be like, no, 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 no. They don't want to fight
right,
because they understand what that means. So yeah, yeah. If you're gonna take martial arts, no, it's not learning how to fight. It's learning how not to fight. And
hmm
the very, very, and again, everybody says it, the very last choice that you have is to fight. But then once that happens, it's a very quick fight. It's not a
right.
prolonged thing. So you don't want to get into that. So yeah, no, it's great that you want to give back to the youth and community, because that's you're learning that you're learning the actual lesson of it. So that's all. It's awesome to hear.
Thank
So
you. Yeah, a couple things I want to say to that too. Like, speaking of humbling, so tomorrow I'm gonna probably go back and spar again for the first time in a while. And what I mean by
Nice.
that is like on Friday nights we have kind of like Olympic sparring because we have like the headgear, the pad, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to spar with like the black belts and the master because I'm a big guy and whatnot. So like
Nice.
I can hit hard, but man, dude, like fighting wears you out. I remember like just being gassed and whatnot. Like,
Yep.
but my defense was all right. The other thing I was kind of having a problem with because like most of the time my partner is a lot shorter and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that too. So I have to kind of hold back my kicks because we do like no contact sparring where you just kind of get as close as you can but don't hit. So
Yeah.
I was kind of like doing that, but they were like, "No, hit me." I'm like, "Okay," So yeah,
Yeah.
it's humbling. But the other thing too, it kills me. So I'm gonna be kind of paraphrasing the quote when you were talking about like you want to avoid the chill guys. And it was a quote I actually did where I think because I had put like an image of Miyagi when he was holding the spear against Chozen in Karate Kid
Mm-hmm.
Part 2 to Daniel from season 3 when he's like that against Kreese. And I
Yeah.
forget what the quote is, but like it was like men fear three things. I forget what the first one was. The second, and I'm paraphrasing here. The second one was like this stormy seas on stormy the storm at night, stormy seas at night, and then the anger of a gentle man. And when I was like that
Yeah.
perfectly like sums up Miyagi and stuff like
Yeah.
that too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but speaking of Miyagi, I got a unique question about your Instagram because you
Sure.
posted something, and let me share so the people can see it as well too. So I don't know if this was like a test photo or whatnot too, but you actually took some photos in like Miyagi's classic gear. Was this like
Yeah.
audition or like tell me a little bit more
No,
about
so
this?
this was so when I got into Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
they were just like, "Oh, go to costume." And I didn't really know what I was doing, honestly, when I was there. Like I knew the scene, but I just, so they're like, "Oh, what do you, they're like, "We're going to fit you for a bunch of stuff." So I was like, "Okay, cool." Um and the first thing was this, and I was like, awesome, and then the second thing was the dogi, so
Right.
they were just like, just in case, we're going to be doing something, we have this for you. And that was just like kind of a nice surprise, and I
Yeah.
think initially too I was supposed to come back for
The sequence,
the
the
part
skeletons. I
three.
was gonna ask
Yeah,
about that
but
too.
I
Yeah.
but I think they went a different, obviously they
Right.
went a different way with that. So this was supposed to be that, I don't know what they initially had in mind, and that was shot like way later after I was gone. So,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I was being told, that it was gonna be kind of a bookend of what you saw in part two. So I don't know what that meant. I don't know if they were actually gonna bring me out and be like a young version of Miyagi talking to Daniel, because I knew there was gonna be some lines, or they were gonna use me and then just put the CG,
Right.
mask that they did in part two. So they did that for me in part two. Like when I'm
Mm-hmm.
standing over Daniel or Ralph, I'm delivering that line, I'm doing the punch, and then what they did was they just put the Pat's face on my face.
Right.
I'm assuming that's kind of what they did with Don. Don Lee is the one who did the
Mm-hmm.
stunt double for it. Because if you look kind of at the part three Miyagi, you can kind of see Don. If you know what Don looks like, you can kind of see Don. Like I could kind of see like little parts of
Right.
it. I was like, yeah. So I actually don't know what initially that was for, but they had me, in the Miyagi suit. So I was like, sweet, and they just had me kind of like pose, like again, Shotokan pose like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about as like that was the pose you were mentioning earlier, which is
Yeah, so
also in the
Shotokan is
scene.
like a,
Yeah.
like he does an open hand, but like it's a closed hand, closed fist, and then you do,
Mm-hmm.
like that. It's a very rigid form. It's to to break the defense as opposed to avoid.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's kind of what it was. So I was like, cool, and I kind of wish in retrospect, I'm like, hey, when you're done, can I keep that? Because I don't think they're gonna use anything afterwards. So, but I should have asked to keep that. So
Yeah, when you posted this, I was like, man, this is so cool. They actually had you in the classic, because
yeah.
yeah, and kind of speaking of too, like so I'm gonna meet Sean Kanan here in Houston next week,
Oh,
because
nice.
he's gonna be at a con. So I'm actually busting out my Miyagi cosplay again, which
Awesome.
I don't know if you might have seen this picture already, but I'll share it too for the fans that may have not seen it. Let me share the next tab real quick. Let's see. This is when I met them in Dallas in 2023.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, that was
Very
really,
cool,
yeah, it
man.
was really cool. Ralph was really nice, and Bill. It's always
Yeah.
a pleasure meeting Billy and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was trying my best to do the Miyagi Okada pose there too. And what's funny, I don't think I've told this story, but so it kind of a couple of funny things about this story. Number one, Paul Walter Hauser, who was also there. He almost photobombed. What's funny was like he ran through the front of the camera, was like hiya, and then like he ran back out because you know how they do the photo ops like at cons. They were
Yeah.
staging him for the next one and two,
Mhm.
and then two. I was so locked in this pose. As soon as they got it, I slipped and almost fell right after this pose. And thankfully, I caught myself. And then they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm good." I'm like, "I'm good." But like, thank God I didn't like fall completely because I would have. It's just like
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
moments
No, that's a
before
good
disaster.
cosplay,
Thank you.
man.
Yeah.
Looks legit. So
A lot. It's all Amazon, man. A lot of it's just Amazon,
right?
and
Yeah.
yeah. So, the only thing is just that, like, yeah, because like this was the thing too. And you know what? I'm kind of curious too because you've played Miyagi. So,
Mhm.
when I picked out this outfit, I was looking because I originally did this cosplay in 2021,
Mhm.
and the closest I could find to what was seen in Karate Kid 1 was military clothes. And this is what
Mhm.
all this stuff is at with the belt and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I had this discussion with Peter, Cobra Kai companion, shout out Peter. So
Peter. Yeah.
yes, I was like, this kind of gives me like a unique like insight to the character. Like, he still wears his maybe clothes from Indians and stuff like that. But then Peter was like, nah, I don't know if I could see Miyagi doing that. So what do you think? You think maybe he just kind of wear
I
these
mean,
from time to time?
it could be. I mean, I know like he was supposed to be like a handyman. So like I know like so what the clothes I was wearing was all Dickie. It was a Dickie shirt, Dickie pants. And that was like, okay, that makes but it does make sense, right?
Right.
So if you watch Karate Kid 3,
Mm-hmm.
like this hat that he's wearing,
Right.
this is like an army, like
Oh,
standard issue
okay.
army
Yeah, I didn't know that.
thing. The jacket that he's wearing is a standard issue American Army. I think it's like a bomber jacket or like a field jacket that he's wearing. So for him to be wearing something like that, it I don't know if it's an actual military, but it reminds him during that time. Because if you really think about it, Miyagi is a character, right? If you take in his history,
Mm-hmm.
he's not from America, right?
Right.
He's from overseas, and even with that, he's kind of thrust into this, um, existence of like being part of the 442nd. Um, he probably came out here. I mean, if you look at chronologically, like he had to have come out here when he was like pretty young. I would say maybe he was like 16 years old because if you look historically,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't allowing a lot of people to come or anybody to come over from anywhere, in the United States. It was like an embargo. So having the closest thing in terms of like an identity was probably his military service, right? So maybe subconsciously he's taking this, beige tan outfit as like work clothes, but like maybe because it reminds him of that
His
time, and
time.
that's the real only connection he has, right? So, because we don't really know what he's done since then, to
Mm-hmm.
me that would be what, if there ever is going to be a Miyagi thing, that to me would be the most interesting, like because we already know like his story in Okinawa,
Right.
right? We already know the stuff that he's gone through that one. And I don't know if that's such an interesting story. That's just me, right? Um, and because also he's Japanese American, even though he's from Japan, he's Japanese American. He lived in Japan for like most of his life. It's a very um, unique take on that story.
Right.
And to know even within Japanese American history too, not much is talked about after the war. It's like what happened to those folks who came back from camp, from war, and then a lot of the stuff. If you follow, fortunately and unfortunately, I was able to learn these stories where it was like the worst time because they came back and everybody who they thought was their friend or neighbor, whatever, it literally turned their back on them, right?
Right.
Even worse is if you were a 442nd soldier. You're thinking, oh, I went to war for, me, my friends, to protect them, and then you come back and they treat you just like you're worse, right? You're the
Right.
enemy, being spat on, being discriminated against. And just imagine that for Miyagi, though, who could barely speak the language, doesn't really have a lot of skills that he can like get a job for. You're like, what did he do to survive? Well, how did he get from there to like Mr.
Yeah.
Miyagi we knew in Karate Kid 1? And I think that to me would be the richest story. You could
Hmm.
have so much like, impact on, and at the same time, I could play that part. If they go younger, I'm not going to be able to do that. But I think that would be like the most, have a little bit, I would say, start at the tail end of the war, right? Around the time that they're in France and they break through to Germany, um, and then from there on, jump towards like, because we know he survives, and the big thing of there is his wife and kid die, right?
Right.
So it's like from that point on, what does that do to this character that we end up seeing in the Karate Kid 1? Because like I said, the chillest guys I know, they've gone through all that trauma and that pain to become who they are, and they
Hmm.
know like, I used to be that, I'm not that anymore, because all that brought me was more pain and suffering. And to me that makes the most sense for Miyagi, where he's such a pacifist now. He's like, I don't fight because fighting, like he says, fighting only, you know gets to more fighting and people get hurt, right?
Hmm.
So I think, for that, that would be the most interesting thing. And then going, it could be a callback to like even his clothes, like the why he chooses that. Excuse me,
Hmm.
because it's just something that's close to him, and I would like to explore like what that is.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So a couple things too, because like, and this was something that was kind of mentioned in the season 3, episode 4, the right path, where even the writers in the when the Kumiko reads Miyagi's last letter to
Mhm.
Daniel, they even looked how Miyagi was kind of cold to Daniel when he was asking, "Hey, can you fix this thing after and stuff like that."
After,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So that would be really cool. One thing I would like to see, depending on, because like we know Sato challenged
Excuse me.
Miyagi to a fight before he left Okinawa.
Yeah.
I would love to see like a part of that, like if you were in the
Oh
Young
yeah,
Miyagi's,
and you could visit those in like flashbacks, definitely.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
love to see you and Kitamura, if I'm saying his name right. The
Yeah.
young
That would
Sato.
be
I'd like to
cool.
see y'all two
Yeah.
like go at it, like
Yeah.
before you leave. So,
Exactly. Yeah, like I think those, like, again, if you set the timeline around the 1950s, you can definitely do flashbacks to
hmm,
his time in Okinawa, right? Like to punch in on those times, to be like, yes, what exactly went down between, Sato and Miyagi the moment he left, right? Like,
right,
did they fight? Maybe they did fight, and then Miyagi's like, you know what? Nah, this ain't worth it. I'm gone.
right,
Who knows, right? But to me, like that, if you dig into, the thing is, if you dig into like the camp stuff and the 442nd, now you're dealing with like actual history
mm-hmm. Which
with
would
a
be, yeah,
fictitious character, right? And then you start getting into like the muddy waters of like trying to tell this fictitious character story alongside of stories that actually happened to these people, even especially with the 442nd. So
right,
it's very tricky. You would have to, yeah, you would have to kind of like recreate scenes, but at the same time, don't put Miyagi in the scenes where their actual
right,
people was there. Like for example, like for 442nd, if we're talking about Bonsai Hill, when they were going up to rescue the lost battalion, you can't put Mr. Miyagi in the I Company who actually went up Bonsai Hill, because everybody in that troop, or that squad, knows each other, right?
mm-hmm.
So it would be weird that all of a sudden there's like this another guy named Miyagi who's doing all this heroic stuff, and it's like,
Right,
no, actually it was actually this guy who did it. So he would have to be in that battle in a different capacity, maybe supporting this I Company going in. But
mm-hmm.
again, it's you get kind of
Yeah,
lost in the
yeah.
weeds, right?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
So,
it's like you want to be respectful to the history to it, but also kind of try. I think it could work if they did it right. If they navigate it just
oh
right
yeah,
too.
if you
Yeah,
did it right, you could definitely see it,
yeah,
and that's why it's like trying to pick and choose that, and then you could
Right.
always do flashbacks into his time in camp. But if you're using like just again like the backdrop of the 1950s where it's completely open, you can kind of fabricate all this other stuff and then pepper in stuff that we actually know what happened, right? Like his
Hmm.
time in war, time in camp, all that kind of stuff. And realistically, in camp, he would probably be speaking Japanese. He probably wouldn't be speaking English. If he did, it would be very broken, more broken than we have in the Karate Kid 1. So for the most part, like he wouldn't be able to really articulate what he's thinking or what he's feeling if it wasn't in Japanese. It's kind of like, I don't know, I'm kind of dating myself too, but like Ricky Ricardo and I Love Lucy, where when he gets upset, he goes right into like Cuban, right? Because
Right.
he can't explain how he is in English. So I think that's kind of what Miyagi would be at that point too. So,
Right.
but yeah, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. It'd
but
be,
fingers crossed. We'll see what the
yeah,
future holds. So
for sure. I'm hoping to. So I'm still hearing word back, so it just talks right now. But I'm hoping to get the big three on soon too. So I'd definitely be like, hey, we need to see that.
great.
I will say
Yeah.
one storyline I'd like to see because like I would like to think that kind of like Cobra Kai, Miyagi would not only focus, Young Miyagi would not only focus on Miyagi but Sato. We need to see the beef between Sato and Master Kim Sung Young because that was never really
Yeah.
explored either. So
Exactly. Like what's the connection there? Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. So
definitely. So while we're on the subject, from each film, name a
mhm.
favorite Miyagiism slash quote from Mr. Miyagi. That's like your favorite.
Oh man. Okay, so I like well, there's a couple in the first one.
Yeah, or more than one is fine too. Yeah,
Yeah, so I
for each film.
think a lot of people like, wax on wax off, but I actually like Sound of Floor.
Okay.
Show me Sound of Floor. Because that's the first time where Daniel just goes, okay, and he goes, "Ah, ta, 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 stand, right?
Yeah.
And then like when he takes the black belt, he goes, "Oh, this not Miyagi," and he goes, "I thank you," and he walks away and he takes the black belt. That's pretty cool. The second one, I would say, man, the second one. So the second one, it's not really a phrase, but I like because I feel like the writer forgot that he talks in the third person.
Hmm.
So I like all the lines where he actually says "I." Like he doesn't say Miyagi. He says like
Right.
I remember and all that stuff like that.
Hmm.
The third one, man,
Uh,
I forget what that one was, but like
yeah.
it's like Daniel was saying something along the lines of like if you can't do this or something. Basically, his retort is like, then Miyagi take a bus. Like that. It's like
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like there's always a way. He's like there's never gonna be. And then for the next the Karate Kid.
Oh yeah, of course we can't forget that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
canon.
just like Pat saying Judy-san. I just think that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Swerving Urban, thanks for the super chat. I'm gonna acknowledge that here in a second. Um, so, man, I'm trying to remember what was like a favorite quote of mine from one. I think it has to be uh, karate yes or karate no. You can't half-ass
Yeah.
anything. You have to go for it.
Yeah.
This one's really subtle, but I feel like it's overlooked a lot. But when he's talking about, because Daniel, it's like when before he learns the drum technique, Daniel asks like, Sato hates you so much, but he gives you time to mourn. What heart no head forget. Like
Yeah.
that's a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, in Karate Kid Part 3 has to be like, of course, must not lose the fear is really good, but I feel like what's overlooked is, you know, you inside have strong roots, which I really loved how they paid homage to that in
Oh
season
yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Next Karate Kid, even though it's more of a funny one, he's like fighting bad, but if must fight, win. Like the way he does that wink
Yeah.
at the end, that was really
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, a quick comment from the chat. Swervin Irvin, thanks for the super chat, by the way. He says, Brian, in your opinion, why did bringing back Karate Kid succeed, whereas, for example, Star Wars kind of didn't hit the mark?
Mhm.
So,
That's a
yeah.
good question. I think because first of all, in Star Wars is a very polarizing franchise,
Hmm.
right? And it's not just because of like the characters, it's just, we have many generations of people who watch Star Wars. And if you were from the beginning, you were from, the original trilogy, and then there was a new generation who watched the prequels,
Hmm.
and that was a very different version of Star Wars
Right.
in itself, right? And if you were long enough to or live, you're old enough to see all of that, then the new generation is watching the new Disney version. That's completely different. So I think Star Wars, it just it was too much of a reinventing, and not a lot of people appreciate that. There's a lot of just new things that kind of flew in the face of old things, right? As opposed to the Karate Kid, we took a story that we were all very familiar with, but we took it in a different perspective, right? We took
Hmm.
Johnny Lawrence's story, and even though it did come back, it turned into again being Daniel LaRusso's story. It was like a different thing, and it wasn't so different that people were like, "What?" And at the same time, Cobra Kai didn't take themselves too seriously. Like I think all the Cobra Kai fans could know it's a very melodramatic show, but
Right.
it's a show that works like that. And when it does hit the serious notes, though, they do it right. So when they do the beats with like Tori's mom, and it's again, I talk about the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai. It's a story about relationships.
Hmm.
Relationships between father and son, you know, daughter and father, surrogate son, surrogate father, friends,
I'd also say break generational trauma too.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
And it's just, and everybody can relate to that, right? That's
Right.
at the core of it. No matter who you are, you're like, yeah, like you were either, you know, Johnny at one point, you're either Chris at one point, even shoot, you could even be like Terry Silver at one point. You could see everyone's like perspective, right? And they kept it really simple where they're not totally going to make it super complicated. So I think that's the success for Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, where they leaned into the nostalgia enough to get you interested, but they stayed true to what they were.
Hmm.
And of course, there's a couple times they might have jumped the shark a little bit, but like what
Right.
what franchise hasn't?
Yeah.
But I think that's the main thing too, and I think also the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai fan base. In you guys are the best. You guys are so passionate. I love you guys, but it's a pretty small one compared to the Star Wars fan base. So the more people there are, the more opinions there are, the more
Right.
chances of people butting heads and stuff like that. So, but I really think the fan base too has been pretty welcoming for anybody coming in. Coming especially from
Yeah.
someone like me who's really new in this world and have just been embraced by it. So it's a credit to you guys as fans that made Cobra Kai and Karate Kid so successful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, because like, and I gotta talk about that for a second too, because like how they treated Miyagi is always like the spirit, right? Like they had like a stand-in, like in a season 2 flashback, and of course you had the
Yeah.
fisherman on the beach and stuff like that. So I think Peter kind of described this best when he was interviewing either Brandon or somebody. It's like when you came along, it's like you were the new toy. It's just like, oh man, we got a young Miyagi. So it's always cool to see that. And then of course, and especially you've told us, I think with Peter, that like even Ralph said, hey, you remind me of Pat, and that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest honor that like
That's the
could have
biggest.
been,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
yeah. And to kind of like circle back to why Cobra Kai is successful. Well, for one, I would say also, I don't know if you've heard of Ken Cole. He's also a
Hmm.
YouTuber yeah, he's
Yeah. Yeah.
really really cool guy. Love him too. He actually did a really good job of like, hey, Star Wars, you need to take notes from Cobra Kai and stuff. And I think we even did a live stream discussion too. But so like all those points you mentioned, I'd also like to point out too, and this is something I'd like to ask the big three about too. But Creed was also kind of one of the first ones to kind of do it the same way Cobra Kai did it, of not only honoring the original characters, but continuing the story while also building up new characters.
Yeah.
Same thing Cobra Kai has done. Like, you bring in
Yep.
Robbie, Miguel, Tori,
Yep.
where it's like
Yep.
they're kind of a mix of some of the old, but they have their own struggles and stuff like that
Exactly.
too. And
Yep.
yeah, stuff like that. And then even getting a chance to kind of like rewrite history, so to speak. Like for example, in Creed 2, Rocky throws in, or excuse me, Ivan throws in the towel where Rocky should have in Rocky 4.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and even with all like for example, Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2, as much as Johnny disliked Kreese, he saved him from Terry Silver. Just like
Exactly.
Miyagi did that too. And
Yeah.
while we're on the subject too, because like this was one of my first videos I did like almost 5 years ago now. was comparing. And what I think another reason why the show works so well is that even though, of course, we know Miguel's, Daniel, stuff like that, but the fact they wrote Johnny with so many Miyagi elements, like even down to music cues, symbolism, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yep.
What are some of your favorite moments of like Johnny being Miyagi-like and stuff like that, even in his own way? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mentioned this in other interviews, but like the Johnny Lawrence character, like I mean, that's what really drew me to the show in the first place. The season one was all about Johnny Lawrence, but like they give him the best lines, like and Billy, William Zabka he's just so good at just delivering them. So, but the thing about it is that if you look at it even from season one, right, like there's a lot of parallels that I feel. So my perspective, like this is just kind of encompassing it. Like I feel like Johnny Lawrence was Miyagi 20 years before the Karate Kid. Like I could easily see him as someone who's just down on his luck.
Yeah.
Probably an alcoholic, not knowing. But the only difference is he never got a Miguel. He never got someone until Daniel comes along, right? And I think we see a little bit of that when Daniel comes in. He goes, "Hey, we need this," and he goes, "Later." Yeah, and he even turns around like, "The hell is this kid?" He's like, "I said, like," and it doesn't really kind of dawn on him until it's like, "Oh, I need to help this boy," because I see a little bit of myself in him, maybe, right? But yeah, there's so many great moments with Johnny where it's like I was watching one of these things where like it's like the best moments of Johnny Lawrence, and it's like that one moment where Daniel says one of the best things for Mr. Miyagi taught me was like if there's an attack, he's like, don't be there.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, don't be there. It's like, well, you spent all this time, you couldn't teach him proper English, but then he does the whole hockey thing, right? And it gets into a fight, and he's like, hey, where were you? He goes, don't be there. I could totally see Miyagi do the same thing, starting a fight and being like, nope, not gonna be there. But of course, all the things with Miguel and helping Miguel regain his confidence after he broke his back, and all the way to like even the very end, right, where like you see all of that, where a lot of like the Miyagi, and I think honestly, like if that was a real situation, I think that's the reason why it got to Daniel so bad, because Johnny was actually embracing more of the Miyagi teachings
got him
than Daniel was, because even at the core of it, Miyagi told him, your karate will be your karate, not Miyagi. It's yours, right? And that's what Johnny did. He took and he made it his own. He literally called it Eagle Fang, right? It was his own kind of. It was something that didn't exist. It was only something that Johnny could have came up with, like a name like that. But really, right? I mean, I was looking at him, it's like, yeah, I would be pissed too, right? Like, I'm the guy who's supposed to know about everything about Miyagi, but it's coming so naturally to Johnny, where it doesn't even feel like he's doing it, and he's like talking shit about it because he's like, sorry to cuss, but like he's like, oh, this Miyagi, because it's like, I think that's the same thing with Miyagi too. He's kind of like, he's like, no, like you're just supposed to take what I taught you and then make it your own,
right?
Like whatever comes out of it, that's yours, right? And eventually, obviously, towards the end of the season, Daniel finally understands that. But yeah, I think Johnny just instinctively knew that, he was just kind of getting that flow into it. And when he finally is able to combine the two styles together, I guess, he becomes a complete fighter, and he was able to use both techniques to win. So yeah, I would say like just as a whole, like that, those are my favorite beats, because like, again, like Johnny's the funniest character in that show.
Oh yeah, easily.
Like hands down. Like as Mr. Miyagi was the funniest person in the movies, but the humor comes from different things, right? I think for Mr. Miyagi, the humor comes from um, it's kind of like a defense, and actually, no, I take that back. It comes from both. Johnny does it in a defensive way too, where because he doesn't understand a lot of stuff, he just kind of just says whatever he thinks it is, and it's like, I'm not gonna try to understand you because I did that in the past and look where it got me. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I don't get it, tampon, whatever, to say something obscure. And I think for even Miyagi too, where he maybe not even understand the whole thing, so he just says, okay, I'm gonna default to humor, So yeah, no, it's the parallels are not lost. Yeah, definitely. So
it's such so many cool things. And one of the I think for me, even though it was like an early moment, I still think black paint on a white wall. That speech does not get where he's like, life's not black and white, and
yeah.
that's I really think that was Johnny's real turning point and whatnot. And
Oh
the
yeah.
one thing you mentioned, which of course Daniel talks about in Skeletons, is like we take the good and then pass that on. Even Terry Silver at times had good advice. Like one of the
Oh yeah.
things, life's not a fairy tale; it's a competitive sport. Life's not fair.
Yep. Yep.
It's really cool that like the show really kind of like, hey, wisdom comes from everywhere. So
Exactly.
yeah,
And again, if when they reintroduced Terry Silver, he wasn't a bad guy,
right,
right? It was like I think a lot of people forget that. Like he came in and he was like I don't know what the heck I was doing. I was high on, on cocaine and I was tormenting a teenager, and I was like, yeah, I know they're trying to retcon it,
right,
but
yeah,
like he was like a pretty. And then until like Kreese's like poison was slipping into him, and I think what really turned the needles, I think he knew he was dying from that point on. I think there's even like
hmm,
theories about that where
right,
he's like, man, like I think if he wasn't dying, he would have never let Kreese talk him into that. He would be like, "No, man, get out of here. Like, I got my life ahead of me. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm not gonna do that anymore." But because he was dying, I think he was like, "Man, I need one last hurrah. I need something. I need a
right,
legacy, right?
hmm,
And I'm not gonna have a legacy this way." And that's why he wanted to make Cobra Kai all over the place. And he was. I think if you look at his art, it's always chasing after legacy. He doesn't have any kids,
right,
as far as I know, right? He doesn't have anything to be left behind. And I think that's what him and Kreese had in common. Like they always want to leave behind something, right? And it's
hmm,
again story about relationships.
right,
I think he also was jealous that he has a connection with uh, Johnny. He was like, I
yeah,
don't have that. I don't have it,
yep,
right? And then that's really what got to him when Johnny comes and kicks him. And he's like, really? You're gonna help? Like,
yeah,
it was like it was great acting by Thomas, but that pain that he had was like, really? Like, you're gonna help him
right.
out of all he done for you? Like, okay, all right. Um, so no, yeah, it's you're right. You can learn everything from anybody, and it's just
Hmm.
how you take that message, right, and make it your own is the important thing.
Yeah.
So
It's funny you bring that up too because so I did a second Terry Silver analysis right before part one because you know how Terry said everybody has a weakness.
yeah,
I suspected or speculated that Terry's weakness was his ego because there had been times where like you said, Terry was jealous of Johnny
yeah,
because of like I think about, and even though it's kind of more subtle, like in the flashback in season 5 episode 7 Bad Eggs where you kind of just like, yeah, this guy has the same name in me. I thought Terry was kind of like third. He's like, okay, whatever. I also thought I also think to Head of the Snake where he's like, Kreese said you were his best student. I never saw it personally and stuff
yeah,
like things like that.
yeah,
And of course even like like see, I unlike him I actually follow orders. I think about party time. So
exactly,
yeah, it's cool that
exactly,
we
yeah,
have that same perspective. So
yeah.
yeah, definitely. Real. I also want to touch on this really fast because like a lot of people might not know this, but you actually met Pat Morita when you were younger.
Yeah,
Do you want to
yeah,
talk? I know you've kind of talked about other interviews, but for those that may
yeah,
have not
sure.
heard, so, yeah,
I mean, it's a quick story. Like,
sure.
I grew up in LA, born and raised. My mom, for the most part, grew up in LA too. And when I was going to school there, all my preschool, my elementary school was all in downtown Little Tokyo. So, she worked at a bank, I believe, at the time. And during that time, early 80s, like mid 80s, like, getting close to like the 90s and stuff like that. It wasn't like a really big community, but there was a very big, vibrant Japanese American community. So, and at the time too, one of the actors, Japanese American actors named Mako,
Oh, yep, know
who
him.
created right the East West Players theater, Asian American theater, premier theater group. Like they all used to hang out there. Pat used to hang out, so they would all kind of just be there and go to the bank, and um, that's just how I knew Pat. I mean, it was my mom's friend, and like I was like young. I think I was like 6 or something like that, and um, didn't know anything about the Karate Kid. Didn't actually see it when it came out. I was, but when I finally saw it, it was like oh, hey, that guy kind of looks like Pat. And it's like, that is Pat. I'm like, that's not Pat. He doesn't talk like that. He doesn't sound like that. Because again, if you ever met Pat Morita, you know he does not sound like him.
Right.
There's a clip on YouTube and it's like people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, he sounds nothing like Mr. Miyagi. His voice is kind of up here, kind of higher up here. It's not this Miyagi voice. It's
Right.
not that. So you're just like, that's not him. And again, I didn't really fathom like the idea of what an actor was. I was just like, oh, I thought Pat was like he worked at the bank. I literally thought he was just like another bank guy in there, because without content of it, that's really what all I was associated with. People in Tokyo. So yeah, like it was brief. Like I just met him, just through people, and
Right.
like I didn't hang out with him or anything like that. But it is really interesting that like right now I'm really good friends with like Tamlyn Tomita. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's a big, huge pillar of support for the Japanese American community, and she's also known Pat. But it's like she was like the second person I told because she was been on the show. So I felt like
Right.
NDA wise she's gonna be safe. And I was like, hey, I gotta tell you something, and I can't tell anybody else, but I feel like I could tell you. And I was like, yeah, I'm playing Young Miyagi. She's like, oh my god, it's like full circle. And at the time I was like, I didn't really realize what she was talking about because like how did she know? But it just I think just in general, everybody in that group, you knew everybody, like
Yeah.
it's I take it for granted like growing up. It's like, oh yeah, because like to me, it didn't really seem like a big deal because like there's a lot of people who knew Pat Morita at that age, and then like Mako, but they're always part of the community, And,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing I miss personally for the Japanese American community, where like we have so little like celebrities and A-listers, but we're kind of scattered that we don't actually come together. Like Tamlin and David Ono and like George Takei and folks like that who are like well-known people. They're doing their due diligence and like really giving back to that community. So, but that really, I feel like that came from Pat and Mako and all that. I could like, there's a story that I just learned recently. I think it'd be really cool. But
Sure.
I was talking with this casting director, and she brought up that she knows Yuji, or who plays Chosen,
Right.
and she told me the story that she was casting for this short film. It was about a Japanese American story, and the director was Japanese American, and she was just starting out, so she's trying to tell him, like, well, who do you want for like the mom and dad character? And he goes, man, it would be great. My dream cast would be, Yuji and Tamlin. And she's like, well, I know Yuji, so maybe I could reach out to him, but I can't promise anything because it's such a small
Right.
budget, and can't. But she's like, I'll just ask. And again, this is like I want to say this is maybe I guess this is before like even Cobra Kai I think was even on air and stuff like that. Yuji was running his restaurant, so he was in Seattle, and she called him and she's like, hey, I'm casting for this film. It's a you know independent Japanese American story, and he goes, I'm in. And she's like, oh no, wait, like I let me finish. So it's like we don't have the budget to fly you out. Like you would have to come down. And then she's like, I'm in. And she's like, okay, really? He's like, yeah. And she was like talking. She's like, oh, you need Tamlin? I'll call Tamlin. Like she'll help too. And she's like, okay, so she goes back to the director. He's like, we got them. It was great, So on set, she was asking like, hey, like, why did you do this? Because you had to come out here and find lodging and all on yourself. And Yuji says, well, honestly, because this is what Pat told us, Pat Morita. And he goes, I remember on Karate Kid too that he was like, you guys are the new generation, you guys are the new, the young bucks coming in, so you have to, whenever there's a Japanese American story or production, like you have to be there, you have to help, you have to pave your own way because no one else is going to do it. And he remembered that message. And it was just like a serendipitous thing that like I was talking to this and I was like, wow, that's so all that, like all the stuff that we're just talking about, like that was really because of those pioneers like Pat Morita kind of like really instilling
Right.
that sense of community in this younger generation. And again, I learned all that from Tamlin. I watched Tamlin be so giving with her time and energy to the community, that it's like, she's a connector. She's like always like, hey, have you met so and so, so and so? At the premiere, at the part 3 premiere, that's what she was doing. She was like, hey, did you meet so and so? And then I was doing that too, because
Right.
there was like it's funny, like all the younger cast, like
The kids.
Brandon and like, yes, Sarah, she plays like the
Hmm.
younger, I
Kim
forget
Daun.
the character's name. Yeah. And even like Mary, and like, Tanner, and like they're just kind of around, and again, they're the stars, right? But I was like, have you? And they're just kind of waiting there, just, and they're kind of looking at her, and I'm like, did you want to talk to Tamlyn? They're like, yeah, and I was like, okay, come on. And then they're like, really? I was like, no, she'd be great to, and they were all talking, stuff like that. So it's just kind of cool that that's just, perpetuated with that, and through Tamlyn, I've learned to do that too. So hopefully the younger generation, I can pass that on. So meeting again, a long roundabout story, like
No, it's
meeting
cool,
Pat
man.
back
Yeah.
then, yeah, like that is kind of like, that's what I understand. Like it's full circle. It's like, wow, like all this is like, she's like, it's good that it went to you, because like you understand what it means to be Mr. Miyagi. As it's not just a character, it's not just a role. Like there's a legacy behind that
A
because
way
of
of
Pat
life,
Morita.
as he would say.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and that's not lost on me. Yeah, again, it's a great honor. So
Yeah, dude,
yeah,
that's so awesome, man. Yeah, my fiance was like Miyagi and Iroh, because Mako play, Avatar,
yep,
which
yep.
I hope I don't break your heart here. I've never seen much of Avatar, but I plan to watch it now that Cobra Kai is over and stuff, like, because I know a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
people
please, yeah,
claim,
please
yeah,
do. Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
okay, it's fine.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, no, so cool. And I've actually been to Little Tokyo before. This was back 7 years ago when I was down there for Anime
nice.
Expo. So I love that place and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I love Tamlin Yuji. I hear so many cool stories about Yuji from Peter, and
Yeah,
I was
they're great.
we were supposed to meet Yuji last year, it just didn't work out. We were supposed to go up to his restaurant and whatnot. But yeah, hoping to meet him sometime soon and whatnot, because I hear he's so nice, like,
He's
and
the
whatnot,
greatest.
just so
Yeah,
cool.
really,
So
really cool guy. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's so awesome that, like, that, because, like, sometimes you don't always see, like, the camaraderie of, like, actors behind the scenes. Maybe they're just there just to play the role, but the fact that you guys are all just tied together by the franchise, and of course, like you
yeah,
said, the pioneers by like Pat and stuff like that. It's so awesome, man. It's so awesome to
yeah.
see that. So, but yeah, hey, I know how are you feeling, man? I know we're about to hit the 2 hour mark, but I want to make sure we're
Yeah,
conscious of your
we could
time.
probably start wrapping it up
Yeah,
pretty soon.
so
If you have a couple more questions,
of
and we
course,
go.
man.
Yeah,
It was
so
a lot of fun. Open invitation to come back, so we definitely have to do that. Yeah,
please,
yeah,
yes,
for sure.
yeah.
So,
And if
uh,
you're ever in like Little Tokyo, or if you're in LA, like I'm actually working with, a little plug here, but like I'm working with, Airbnb, and again, Airbnb is kind of like one of
sure.
those like polarizing companies, but I got reached out by one of their associates, and they wanted to really, I guess, showcase Little Tokyo.
Hmm.
They're um, Japanese American too, and they felt like, hey, I could use my I guess position in Airbnb to kind of like really help out. So I'm
Sure.
actually giving tours in Little Tokyo, cultural and historical tours in Little Tokyo. You can go on in, and um, I mean, it's paid for,
Oh,
but
of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a cool thing where like you can learn about the city, learn about the history there, and I'm hoping that also brings a lot more business into Little Tokyo itself. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of legacy stores that unfortunately didn't make it. Um,
Oh, yeah.
just for just things, but there are still a good amount of them left, and I like to support them. And I'm trying to do as much as I can to kind of like really bring in people from outside to be like, hey, and of course from there you could tell your friends and be like, hey, let's go take a trip down to Tokyo and just
Yeah,
hang
for
out
sure.
there. And again, if you're into like anime and
Oh, of course. Yeah.
all that stuff. Like, yeah, like it's like the mecca down there for that. There's a play like every weekend there's something going on there with like people are dressed up in cosplay and things like that. It's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, um,
I
shout
appreciate
out
it,
if
man.
you look
Yeah.
it out for that. Yeah. So we
Yeah,
will
of
have to have
course.
you.
Yeah, Sensei Four too was like, "Hey, you ever come down?" And I would love to. And Ken Cole, I know, is also in that area too. I'm like, yeah, so
Yeah.
that's If my fiance is listening, there we go. There's one of our next trips, either
There you
before or
go.
after we get
There you go.
married.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
William's awesome too. Yeah, big shout out to William. Like
Yes, he's so man. He was
really,
so
really
cool.
dope guy. So
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of things I bought there last time. Unfortunately, I don't have them anymore now. But I used to have. Have you heard of Superboy? It's like kind of like a.
Superboy.
It's a portable Super Nintendo that's shaped like an SNES controller.
Oh yeah.
I used to have one of those, and because they're not region locked, I actually when I was in Little Tokyo last time, I bought a Japanese copy of Super Street Fighter 2 and Earthbound. Unfortunately, I don't have those copies anymore, or the Superboy for that matter. But that's what I remember buying there.
Nice.
And
Yeah, they actually have a store that's dedicated to like old retro style games. So like you probably could find them all again. So
yeah. Oh, she says we'll squeeze into the budget. Okay, there we go. So okay, so here a couple unique questions for you in chat. Prepare some of your questions too. As of course, Brian, thank you again for coming on time. But I gotta.
Yeah.
So, if you were a writer in the show, dream matches. Who would you? You're some dream matches of, and I'm talking about like there's no limit whether it's dream sequence or what if scenario.
Yeah.
Like who would you like to fight against?
Well, I think for the most part, and I'm with the fans. Like we needed to see a young Miyagi versus a young Kim, Sensei Kim.
Yeah.
Because there's some sort of history there, and I would love to see that, right? Second is like I would like to see a fight between like I'm forgetting that character's name. He's the first Korean guy that was there. He was like the first bully.
Oh, Kyler.
Kind of just like Kyler, yes.
Yeah.
Kyler versus Quan.
Oh yeah.
Like just to kind of see like hey like because like the first bad versus like the new one. And yeah, we already got a lot of stuff like that, but I would love to see actually Chozen going against like just as like a kind of fun brawl, like all the other like senseis like all together, kind of like a la what Johnny did in season 5, without like the bloodiness of it. That's to kind of be like, all right, we kind of saw a little bit of that, but those are like senseis that we don't even know who they are. So I'm like, if we have them, and they kind of did a little bit of that too, but like an actual like fight where they're doing like a free for all. Like it's like Last Man, that King of the Hill style versus like Johnny, Chozen, Daniel. Even I mean, shoot, you can even throw in like Stingray if you want to, but like the younger senseis there. I would like to see what that would be like. But everything else, I think it's kind of been done, right? Like maybe a fight with Devin versus like I don't know. Did Devin ever fight Sam?
Yes, in season 5, episode 8.
Yeah, that's right, they did, right? And then Devin fought Tori. So yeah, it's all gone and been done. But
here, I got one for you.
I would love to see more fights with Devin. I feel like they didn't really use her as much as they should. She's wonderful too, as a actress. But like her, like maybe doing some more stuff would be great. But I think the number one thing is like we didn't get is a young Miyagi versus a young Sensei Kibiya. That would be dope, definitely. So
to quote the Johnny, flip the script. If Terry Silver had a nightmare, I'd love you to fight Thomas. That would be really because he's like how he just like embarrassed him in Karate Kid Part 3.
Yes,
that would be really like interesting.
That would be awesome, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I shoot like Thomas is so freaking tall too. So, but like that would be awesome. I think that would maybe that's what he dreams about, right? Maybe that is one of his waking nightmares where he just gets pummeled by Miyagi all the time.
On the hair,
pain all the time, and he wakes up and he's like, So yeah, that would be dope.
For sure. I know this one's kind of I kind of asked this as like some of the actors and stuff like that too. I'm gonna kind of give you free reign on this one because it would probably be kind of hard to think of music from that generation. But top 5 playlist for Miyagi.
Oh man, like specifically for the character Miyagi?
Yeah, for the character. But I'm gonna give you free like from any era, like even current day and stuff like that, because like I'm sure like I couldn't think of an artist from the 1940s, so like
man. So like honestly, like I think Miyagi would really appreciate a lot of like the city pop stuff that's going on right now. If you don't know what that is, right? Like it's like this like it's like that Japanese 80s style thing, but even like the newer stuff, like there's an artist called Ginger Root. I
Okay.
think he really digs that kind of stuff because, like, I mean, we saw in Karate Kid 1, he looks like he was going dancing or something. And
Yeah.
he's like, ah, Daniel-san, I'll be back. Okay, man. And he like has this little
Yeah.
collar. So I think, that kind of stuff. I actually found the song that he's singing while he's drunk.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Japanese blues
And
he calls. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a style of Japanese scene called enka.
Okay.
I think like that's another thing in his playlist that he'll definitely like. What else would he listen to? I'm just kind of going after like
Sure.
stuff that I know, like maybe like my dad digs. I feel like he would be into a lot of like rock
Okay.
style stuff, like, maybe some things from like the early 2000s, maybe even like late 90s, like Incubus and things like that.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
just yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just kind of going after like things like my dad like, and I'm like, you like this kind of stuff? He goes, yeah, it sounds pretty good.
I had them on my playlist
Um,
recently. Talk shows on mute was like one of my favorites by
Talk
him.
shows of me. There's a Incubus song on their Morning View record called, I think it's called Aqueous Transmission, and it
Okay, I'll
actually
check it out.
has a Japanese instrument on there. It's called a koto.
Oh yeah,
So I
yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
that would be his like gateway into that. He'd be like, "Oh, this is good. What this?" Um, and yeah, I think that's kind of like his roundabout stuff, like late '90s rock, maybe a little bit of oh, he would love Hiroshima. I don't know if you know who they
No, I
are,
don't
but
think
they're
so.
a Japanese American like jazz band, like
Oh,
a
okay.
smooth jazz band. They don't have any songs that are they do, but like in terms of radio, they don't have any songs with words. It's all like
Oh,
instrumentals.
that's still cool. Me, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a song called Thousand Cranes. I think that's what are
Ah,
popular in the
okay, yeah,
radio.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So things like that, I think he'll really dig. So
okay, it's funny you mentioned City Pop because I forget the artist's name, but the girl that sang Plastic Love. So when we went to
oh yeah.
we went to Big Texas Comic Con in
Mhm.
October, where a lot of the Cobra Kai cast was there. My fiance cosplayed as her,
Nice.
and we were meeting the cast too. And actually, Peyton was like, "Oh, you're really pretty," because like when I was meeting Peyton at the time and whatnot. So
Cool.
we were actually listening to a lot of City Pop in the hotel room. I'm trying to think of some of the songs. Of course, Plastic Love, Telephone 56709.
Yeah.
That's like one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
Yeah.
Remember Sunny Days. Stay
Mm-hmm.
with Me, of course. Yeah,
You
all
stay
stuff
with
like that.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's an artist that it's the artist that you're talking about. It's her husband. His name is Tatsuro Yamashita.
okay.
And it's probably the most popular song he has. It's called "Love Talking." So if you like plastic, love and all that stuff like that, like "Love Talking" is pretty dope. Like it's a head bopper. So,
Okay. Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
One question from the chat, and if there's
mhm.
another one that if you guys would want to prepare a chat for, Swervin Irvin says, Brian, if it were you, which one of Mr. Miyagi cars would you have picked other than the yellow convertible?
Oh, I would have picked the truck. I would have
Okay.
picked the truck, definitely a truck, because like it's so like, first of all, I feel like the trucks at the time would look like cooler.
Hmm.
But it's just like economic wise, like I think it's more useful than the car. So that would pick the truck, yeah. So I think
Okay.
you had like a black one too, and that look
Yeah, I
pretty
think
cool.
so.
So yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, Sonic, I'll give you the last question here. Sonic Unleashed XY says, Brian, since you play Destiny, did you ever get into the Halo franchise?
No, I didn't. I
Oh wow.
so
Okay.
I like I said, I didn't even know Bungie really that well until of Destiny. And
Oh,
really,
I
like I
see.
said, like it was like my buddy who was just kept nonstop talking about this game called Destiny, and I was like, oh, okay, what is it about? He's like, you're like, he's like, you could be like this, and he did bring up like a Master Chief type guy. And you could
Right.
be like a space wizard and some sort of like space cowboy. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And he would bring up all these weird things. And I'm like, all right. And then he just got it from me for like my Christmas gift. And he's like, you got to play it. So yeah, I never really got into Halo. I always had PlayStation. I never really had Xbox. So never
Same.
was able to, but I think I would have enjoyed it. Just judging by, Destiny and stuff like that. So
Yeah, see, for me, I was kind of the same way too. I had friends that were like Xbox guys, but I was like a Sony guy at the time. I'm trying to bring up this clip while I'm talking real quick too. I'm just trying to see if I can show it. Where I was playing as Mr. Miyagi in Street Fighter. But yeah, so I was kind of the same way.
nice.
I was Super Nintendo, Genesis for a bit, then I was 64, and then see 64, PS1, PS2, PS3, but yeah. So all right, let me share this. Oh, that's I gotta share that. So I didn't find any. What's funny though is like because you can change like your kind of gamer tag, your
Yeah,
nickname in Street Fighter 6. So my nickname was Mr. Miyagi. Because you can
nice.
do these things called like avatar battles. So I'm trying to see. So
Oh, that's dope.
yeah, so this was like the only one I could really do was like his tournament look. I'm trying to
Oh,
fast
heck
forward
yeah.
to a
No, that
fight.
looks dope. Yeah.
Yeah, so and I was using like Ryu and Kin's Shotokan style. I think this run I was using
Awesome.
like Drunken Master and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it was funny
No, that
too.
looks dope. Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
um, I might still have the screenshot, but what's funny is so in you can have like these lobbies where you can do, your creative characters can interact with other people, and you can also talk to other people too, right?
Yeah.
Somebody was like, Mr. Miyagi's dead, and then I think his name was Blanca Chan, but I was like, no, Miyagi spirit is alive and well, Blanca Chan and stuff like that. And I remember too was like some guy that was cosplaying as what did you play Street Fighter Alpha before?
Yes.
You remember
Yeah.
Charlie, Gao's friend?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So this guy, he was dressed as Charlie, and he like DM'd me. He was like, "Do you have any advice, Mr. Miyagi?" I was like, "Go find balance." He's like, "I will." And then he ran off to fight somebody. Somebody. It was so funny, dude. It was like, I love like online interactions like that. It
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
it was so great. But Brian, dude, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm gonna give you special props for I know you were sick and whatnot. I would have been totally okay if you had we
Oh,
rescheduled and stuff like that because like man, but it was a lot of fun. I hope it was unique and
oh
enjoyable
yeah.
for you
Thank you
too.
very
So
much.
yeah,
Yes.
so
Yes.
before we say goodbye, where can they find you? Any upcoming projects you want to plug?
Great. Yeah. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at the Brian Takahashi.com or whatever the Instagram thing is. I am doing a project. It's under NDA, so I can't talk
Sure.
too much about it, but I'm assuming I can bring it up because I'm in the promo video for it. But it is a video game that I'll be
Okay.
part of. It'll be coming out in 2027, I think. But yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. It's a narratively driven, it's a AAA game.
That's
It's
awesome.
probably gonna be one of the bigger games out there, but it's called I mean I'm pretty sure I can say it. Anyway, so it's through a company called Lightspeed LA. If you go to Lightspeed LA, like you can see like their behind the scenes video about like the studio that they built in South Bay.
Hmm.
But it's a game called The Last Sentinel. Really excited about it. First time that there's so they're using Japanese and Japanese American actors to portray Japanese
That's
American
awesome.
characters. So it's really cool. But yeah, uh, I'm really excited for it to come out. Being a gamer myself, I've seen some things for that. And I'm like, dude, this looks great. I'm not in. I'm talking as though um, as a gamer,
As a
not
fan,
like
yeah.
as someone who's working in it. Like I'm like looking, and I was like, wow, this is dope. And then the dads keep saying, oh, this is not even done yet. This is just like I'm like, this is just the preliminary stuff. It's gonna
Yeah.
get better than this. And then he's like, yeah. He's like, this is just, this is just like our rendition of it, like, just so we can work things out. And I was like, wow, there's games that look like this that are out already, that are finished. And so, yeah, it's gonna be cool. So fingers crossed that everyone else likes it, but hopefully, you get to play it and
Yeah, of
you'll
course.
be seeing this face in the game
Yes.
somewhere. But yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna be really fun too, because like and like I said, we'll definitely have to do a follow up episode, down the road too, because I always love, I'm still new to the interview thing, but I'd like to, I've been open
definitely,
invitation
yeah.
stuff like that. So
Especially when the game leading up to the game, love to jump on,
yeah,
promote the game to you and your audience and stuff like that. And
yeah,
yeah, getting the word out for that way. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, Brian, hey, thanks again so much, man. I hope you still continue to feel better too with, you know, from
yeah,
the
thank
bug
you.
you're having and
Yes,
stuff like that. So, but you have a great rest of your night, and I'll definitely send you some of those Animal Crossing screenshots.
please,
So, yeah. So,
please. Thank you very much. Yeah,
yeah.
and thank you everybody. So
Yeah. All right. See you later. All right, guys. That was Brian Takahashi. Definitely a super fun interview. Man, that was really cool because we got to talk about so much stuff. We also and this was really awesome because the fact that like we this is one of like the longer interviews I had too, like with Sensei Ford. You know, both of these really great conversations. It's always cool, like especially when I can kind of talk about gaming and whatnot. So yeah, it's really fun. I'm gonna definitely update the timestamps and stuff. You know, we'll put Brian's social and stuff in there too, the projects. You know, link to Praey and whatnot. So yeah, oh yeah, I appreciate you, Sonic, because I know it's in the UK right now and whatnot. So yes, thanks. Brian is a legend for sure. It's always fun, you know, when we can talk, you know, whoever we can talk from the cast and stuff like that too. So yeah, I'll still be doing some more interviews. So this weekend I'll be recording with Owen Morgan, Nathaniel O, and Aiden Minks, who all play Bert, Nate, and Mitch. So these are all going to be like fun too. You know, I'm really looking forward to this, and this one was really cool too. And yeah, Swervin', hey man, I appreciate you stopping in. Thanks for the super chat, by the way. Really appreciate it. So yeah, guys. So that's what we'll be doing. I'm slowly still working on some character analysis stuff in the background. It's just, you know, trying to reach out for these interviews and stuff like that too. Like, you know, just doing what I can to kind of, you know, bring you guys unique content and also maybe use that content for like the character analysis too. That, you know, I have insights from the actors and stuff like that too. So, but yeah, guys, we'll go ahead and sign off for now. So you guys stay beautiful, stay awesome. Catch you around next time.